Welcome to AOE Esports. My name is Kari Wave. I'm joined here with Hawk and DJ. How are you today, gentlemen?
I'm feeling great. I don't know about you, DJ, but
Fantastic, Car. I'm super excited to be back here in the amateur scene for the semifinals here of Challengers Uprising. And, if you've been paying attention to my Twitter, I'm very happy to be back in amateur because my predictions this week for the LCS were absolutely garbage. I'm doing a lot better in amateur, so I'm back in my comfort zone here.
Same. I think LCS is a little out of my league. I definitely struggled this week as well. So I am back where I am happy and back where I belong, I think. It's a little out of my league. How about you, Hawk? How have you been this week?
feeling great. I just got back from a vacation in California, so I can't complain too much. And of course, watching LCS crying as Cloud9 lost, but it's fine. They won on Sunday.
Speaking of matchups and losing, what are our matchups today? Who are we watching? I'm gonna go for DJ here.
Yeah, so I mean, we're waiting for the big reveal here for all the predictions from the analysts, of course, but we do have AOE randoms today going up against Zeus Gaming on the left side of the bracket here for Challengers Uprising. Semifinals on the other side of the bracket is Wildcard Red up against Resolve, but we'll let the other stream handle that one, the Academy stream handle that one. We are focused here on AOE randoms who have been on quite the tear here through Challengers Uprising. This is the new team, one of the two new teams for AOE this season who have just joined the Proving Ground circuit, and they have made quite the name for themselves running through the OQs, taking down EG Prodigies to qualify on day number one, and then running through the tournament, outdoing a lot of analyst expectations in the group stages, and then taking down the main roster, the AOE main roster last week in the AOE Bowl in quite exciting fashion, particularly in game number 4. So these players have made quite a name for themselves and now will be up against another huge challenge against a Zeus Gaming team that honestly made GGA look bad last week.
Yeah, they did kind of drag them through the mud across the rift on a leash, and I think that was kind of to be expected, especially because we did see a lot of success out of Zoos in the spring season. So, I mean, my expectations are pretty high for Zoos, but I have really enjoyed the underdog story that AOE has managed to carve out for themselves. I think at the beginning of this season, especially the summer season, they were highly underestimated. And to me, I really enjoy seeing those underdogs come up and prove everybody wrong. I think as analysts, a lot of us have not necessarily not done our research, but are more leaning into unfamiliarity rather than digging in deep to newer teams and giving them the chance that they deserve. So eat my own words. Really excited to watch this one, especially because I think it's going to be closer than a lot of people think. Let's talk a little bit more about that. Hawk, what do you think in terms of your own predictions? Let's just get right into it.
All right, getting right into the predictions then. I like it. We got a lot to unpack here. And of course, we just talked about it, how Zeus is sort of the established team today. And AoE randoms, they've been the underdog so far, but I've got to take Zeus 3-1. Looks like DJ, you're on my side for this one. It really just comes down to, I think Zeus is just a step above AoE esports. And I don't think AoE randoms will really have what it takes to overcome that. I think AoE really thrived on forcing AoE main to make bad decisions, to make bad plays, and then effectively punishing them. But when they weren't able to sort of march the game to the beat of their own drum, when AoE main didn't make those mistakes and they had clean objective setups, it just kind of all fell apart for AoE randoms. We saw in game number 2, early invade into, despite them stacking up dragons, by the third dragon, they got aced and lost the game very quickly. It's just such a tough place to really find advantages for yourself when you are not able to dictate the pace of the game in AoE randoms. I think will find themselves on the wrong end of that. That being said, good reactive teams usually manage to find at least one win in a series. It's impossible almost to play 3 perfect games of League of Legends, even for a team of the caliber of Zeus. But I think they're going to take it in the end.
Yeah, I'm kind of on the same page as you here, Hawk. It is very difficult, particularly against Zeus's top side of the map, to take control of the tempo of the game, and we've seen it time and time again here from these 3 players, of course, Alorum, Tuesday, and Griffin. Now, all with LCS or Academy experience, these 3 have been tearing up the tournament. They've looked so incredibly coordinated so far throughout this tournament. And it really hasn't mattered in particular what they've been on. Of course, Alorum has that kind of wonky champion pool that you cannot really ban out. He can pull them out in any situation. Griffin can play almost everything in the jungle. And then Tuesday, at this point, it doesn't even matter what the meta is. That guy can pretty much just carry on anything. He has been slamming in this tournament. And you're talking about the one game there that I think we both predicted. This is sort of my joke reason, but I think the joke reason that I think AOE randoms can take that one game, it's not Tuesday yet.
I like that one a lot. Oh man, unfortunate. Yeah, who knows? Maybe it not being Tuesday is the answer to taking down Zeus, but I think you just said it a couple minutes ago. Once it hits Tuesday, everyone's done.
Yeah, that's when the planets align and everything kind of comes together for Zeus. It's a bad day for everybody. Lord help them if you have to play Zeus on a Tuesday. But in my opinion, I thought that I was gonna be the harsh one with my 3-2 with AOE randoms, but it turns out that's not the case. I've had some really constructive conversations with AOE and how, the organization hasn't been fully established yet, especially in Proving Grounds. But how they've just run it down this entire, especially during the summer split here. And I thought I was going to be the harsh one, so I had a completely different narrative. But now it turns out that I'm the one who has the most faith in AoE. So I just want to say, suck it, Riley. I really hope you guys do win. I'm setting you up for success here more than anything. So I guess that I'm the hopeful one. On this side, and I really, really do want to see the underdog story every single time. It's just kind of who I am as a person. It's more dynamic, it's more fun to talk about. So, even though on the technical and statistical side, I think that Zeus probably has the up and up, I'm not going to discount the possibility of AoE randoms coming through and making it happen. So we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, Kari, if we want to talk about hope, I think me and Hawk were talking about this a little bit. You got to look to, I think, one place in particular for AoE randoms, and that's not to discount what they've been doing, but I think the game plan largely is revolving around the performance of Short Hop right now and Pocus in the bottom lane. I mean, Short Hop has just been slapping. Like, he has been playing so well, particularly on the Jinx and in the Ezreal in the last series. He just hit top 15 in the NA ladder over the weekend. So this is a guy at the top of his game right now, and he has said it on his Twitter. He said it in interviews. He's out to prove himself along with the rest of this team. Again, they are sort of the new kids on the block in terms of organization, in terms of their team name, the randoms here, right? And they've shown up and made that name for themselves to start the season. They've got a big chance to do it today. And, going back to sort of my serious reason for a one game here is I do have a lot of faith in Pocus and Short Hop in the bottom lane. Pocus' shot calling has been excellent for that playstyle that Hawk mentioned, and Short Hop has been on top of his game. And while I do think Raheen and Rhino have very much improved so far in the beginning of the season, they were still the weak link in Proving Grounds last split around. That is one place I do think AoE randoms could look to get an advantage.
Yeah,
I
and you
agree.
talk about.
Go
Oh,
ahead.
sorry. So,
No, go ahead.
but you talk about that, and I think it's also interesting because in the series that we saw for the quarterfinals, Zeus played Kaisa in 3 games, including first picking it on blue side. I mean, that could potentially be a massive draft advantage for the side of AoE randoms. If Raheen can only really play Kaisa, you either ban that one out, or as AoE randoms chose to do against AoE main, let them have the Kaisa and then counter pick it with something like Jinx or Ezreal, something that Short Hop has looked incredible on, and that can absolutely pop off on team fights. And so I want to throw that shout out over to Pockets just like you. His roams have been absolutely incredible this series. We've seen him go mid a lot, in particular helping Leo against some really 1v9 matchups that we saw, like Nocturne against Zed, that kind of thing. The Nautilus showing up and helping get it done. The duo lane just doing so well. We saw Short Hop have like a 20 CS, not a 20, maybe 10 CS lead when he was basically 1v2ing for an entire lane. I mean, that's insane. That's really great play. So yeah, if you're going to look at that one boon for AoE randoms, it's definitely that bot lane.
I think that is where the cracks will begin to show if we do want to see AoE randoms actually take this series. I think that's going to be essential. I think on the other side, another important thing to do is shut down the top lane in Zeus. That's obviously the elephant in the room that nobody wants to talk about because it's scary and it has been difficult to overcome. Everyone thinks, you've got this one person that you sort of build around as a hyper carry, so it shouldn't be an issue, right? And it always ends up being one. So how can you overcome that really, really strong top lane against Zeus? What's the strat, boys?
That's that's the tough one here, X-Hawk. That's sort of the big question, of course, and it's one that GGA didn't really have an answer for either. And that's Niles coming down from the LCS. I mean, Alorum is just a really, really solid player. It's hard to ban him out. I'm actually intrigued to see how many Swain games we see in this series. We know that Short Hub did play it once last week against AOE. It's also a specialty of Alorum's there in the top lane, but if I'm being honest, with what we've seen out of Chim so far for AOE randoms, I would be looking to absorb pressure in that lane. You know, he had a very clever pick of the Trundle come out last week. He's got a very large champion pool right now throughout the tournament. 9 unique top laners played, a bunch of tanks, a couple of bruisers. He can do a lot of things. I think you want to be flexible around Alorum, but I'm being honest here. I think it's really, really hard to go at this man right now. He's playing at the top of his game, and he has always been a tricky one to try to punish.
Is the strategy to just out-rotate then? Is it just to run away from Alorum? Is that the strat?
Yeah, I guess so, honestly, because we saw, like DJ just said, Olorum is just such a beast. And I will say, I want to give Chim credit for the willingness of him and AoE randoms to try to pick aggressively into tank matchups and not just settle for weak side and play around short hop. They've actually tried to get an advantage on the top side. But can you do that against Alorum? Probably not. I mean, maybe you might be able to. So if you're going to try to out-rotate him, you know, we did just talk about those roams mid from Pockets. And then if you can get Josie going, he had a great series against AoE main and try to go down to that bottom side of the map, try to make dragon fights happen with potential teleport advantages, any sort of roam timers that you can find. That will definitely be a good way to try to find a foot in this game, but it's going to be so hard.
A lot of hope for AoE randoms, actually. Despite our predictions, I think that all of us are sort of hoping to see that underdog series, to see, I mean, they grow exponentially every single week. It's actually insane to watch this team. So while I think that Zeus does have the advantage from, you know, a sensible perspective, I think from an inspiring shonen anime Naruto-esque story, we're looking at AoE randoms to prove us wrong. So speaking of which, let's go to the game. We're going to switch to the casters here. We've got Jolly and Dia, 2 of my favorite casters of all time. Let's go.
As we pop over to the desk, I want to thank our analyst desk so much for setting us up. Thank you, Kari, for the wonderful task. And welcome, Jolly, to the first time that I've managed to work with you specifically on an AoE series. I've been here the whole split, so I've just been chilling, waiting for our moment to arrive.
It's true. It's true. I've been wanting to cast you for a while now. I've been kind of in and out of you know, some of these events, the Challengers Uprising kind of thing. I'm all over the place though, so you know, I have no permanence in anything. However, I love this matchup. I love these matches. I love AoE in general as well, being able to watch randoms and the original AoE team. Honestly, my favorite part about this matchup is my favorite part about most of these tournaments when they get into semis is the 2 teams that we are watching are seed 2 teams. I love to see upsets like this of the 3-0 teams getting knocked out further on in the bracket. And these teams that, you know, people weren't expecting as much from, like the Cloud9 getting the 3-0 in the same group here. I mean, these teams have made it. They've fought their way up. They've proven why they are here. And I'm so excited to get into these 2 teams and get a little bit more knowledge across the table.
And one of my favorite things as we wait for the draft to actually start up about these 2 teams in particular is that Zeus and AoE randoms have a lot in common in a sort of way. They're running almost parallel storylines where last split in just the general tier 2 sort of era there and running all the way up to Proving Grounds, Zeus also had to prove that they weren't a B roster. And it's the assumption that everybody has had about AoE randoms since day 1. But once again, just last week, we saw AoE randoms beat out the main roster, and now they're competing once again with the top talent and still need to break free from that assumption, that title that's been placed on them, much like it's been placed on the Zeus roster in the past.
It's cool to see too, you know, some of the players on here. We heard the analyst desk talking about some of the high tier Alorm, obviously having, you know, a lot of focus on that player. But you've got a lot of really good synergy as well. And that's one of my favorite things about AoE randoms coming into this one is, yeah, you've got, you know, 2 challenger players on either team. You have overall a higher elo in general for Zeus. But or actually, you know what? For AoE randoms, you got the GMs, you got the few challengers. But the fact that you have I mean, 2 challengers there on the bottom side of the lane is very, very exciting to see. So a lot of pressure, as it was talked about on the analyst desk, is going to be focused for AoE towards that bottom side. Zeus focusing more along the top in the jungle here. So they're going to start out with a ban, a Nocturne ban against AOE randoms. They, this has been a really common thing too with this scene, with the amateur academy scene, has been very much draft based in that your composition certainly can determine whether or not you're winning the early game, the late game. You have to have a really cohesive composition, and you have to have a win condition, and then a fallback as well. So these teams really focusing on that. You got the Ezreal ban out, the Gwen, and the Set. So a lot of focus there towards the top side of the map for or against Zeus. So AOE really focusing out what they know they need to.
Yeah, Zoos are really stripping away the fallback plan that AoE randoms have had in the past, because Nocturne was something they really favored just last week in their journey through the quarterfinals as something that Leo could consistently pilot in the side lane that would be an unending source of pressure, a way to make plays happen. The Ezreal also something they could rely on Short Hop to pilot in that late game, bring immense amounts of damage, and now, without these two bastions of your composition, we're going to have to see a totally new look from the AoE randoms. The one thing, though, that hasn't been banned away here is the Rumble.
Yeah, I was gonna point that out, because you've got not just the Rumble is a really strong champion right now, also a flex pick that you can take into a lot of things. So that is going to be locked in by Zeus Gaming. AoE, they're going to hover up that Lucian, another flex pick, which has been another one of my favorite things of the current meta right now, is those flex picks. It always makes me think of Flexius from LEC, the Vidius.
Oh my god, yes. The many
I
faces of Vidius.
Every time I picture him in the suit, of the flex, getting those flex picks in, because they are absolutely incredible. Hi, puppy.
Puppy.
Yes, little puppy. I know. This is the doghouse, and now we've got a 10-week-old puppy. So we'll see if we can get him to make a little more of an appearance on the screen. But in the meantime, Tristana, that hover, as an ADC main, I just don't want to deal with Tristana. Honestly, in my opinion, the first few levels, up until where she really gets to be able to manipulate the rocket jump and the initiations, she's a little bit boring in my opinion. But the Nautilus has also been one of the strongest supports, and I think really underrated in terms of being able to utilize his hook for both initiation and disengage if necessary.
And both Rhino and Pocus are insane on Nautilus. I mean, Pocus alone last week was finding incredible hooks mid-team fight to completely change the way that things were going. But the thing that really stands out about Rhino's Nautilus is the way that it roams. This guy walks through the entire map by like level 4, even sometimes going to mid and top lane, not just to lay down vision, but to get kills, and especially on this champion that you already mentioned has been so meta recently. I'm starting to get really scared for AoE randoms, because everything that I've seen them succeed on in the past is being taken away, and they're having to show us these new faces of them that, while I'm excited, while I'm inspired by their performances of times gone by, don't necessarily hold that history that makes me confident that it'll work.
However, I mean, you have to assume that they're going into this one with a bit of confidence. The nice thing to know is there is a buffer here. This is a best of 5. So even if this first game goes awry for AoE, they have the ability to say, all right, we get a little bit of a reset. We need to lose 2 more games to actually be out of this competition instead of just the single for a normal best of 3. So at least going into this, being able to take a new strategy and saying, hey, let's see if we can make this work. Zeus is one of the teams that we need to try to, find some sort of, not underhanded move, but find something to really take them off guard. And maybe this is the way that Randoms has discovered that they can do that. The Senna is great. I like the flexibility there. There's a lot of initiation, a lot of damage there. Not as much frontline though, and that's kind of my concern at the moment, is the initiation for Zeus with just the current setup is going to be a lot more successful unless they get a bit of a solid frontline, something to deal with that top side, because we know how much Alorum likes to run things like the Urgot. The Malphite, of course, is being banned out here. The Aatrox. I mean, a lot of just really big heavy hitters and initiators. So we need to see a little bit of that on the side of randoms as well to kind of counter.
I desperately want AoE randoms to try and save that last pick for Chim as well, because the analyst desk illustrated it so wonderfully that Alorum was such a big problem that even Golden Guardians Academy didn't have an answer to. And with a Maokai lock in here, you've actually technically done it. You can give Chim this, you can get yourself a powerful source of initiation, but it can also be flexed to the bot lane, because this is something that we've also seen Pocus play before.
love that too. Honestly, that kind of a pick for this team would be something that could be really helpful. The flex picks are huge, and we can see that here. So I love that from AOE Randoms. It really feels to me like they're looking for some sort of way to really throw off Zeus Gaming, and I love to see that to start this out, because the last thing that you want to do is, as a team, kind of regret the fact that you didn't go out on a limb at the very beginning of the series to try something that you think might work, and then that means if it doesn't work, you can fall back on what you know works for the team. So I love the fact that they are going out of that comfort zone in this game, number one. And if things don't work out, they fall back on something a little bit better. But I don't know, it gives us a lot more opportunity to understand the team itself, the players, the thinking behind this one. The Trundle might be the lock-in. The Ornn is incredibly powerful. That would be the one I would honestly suggest for this composition, especially with the initiation that the rest of the team is going to provide, and that will be the final lock here.
And Ornn, this is something, an old counter pick to Ornn that emerged when he was really meta, the Kale Hover, of course, but we're going to have to see what they end up locking in. It does end up being that Zeus have to blind something pretty safe, though, because they know that Maokai can always be rotated into the support position, and they've got themselves a composition that I think looks pretty nice right now. I was really scared of the Trundle lock-in, but a Nasus lock-in is somehow even more unexpected.
It is unexpected. It'll be interesting to see. Oops, as I keep bumping my table. It'll be interesting to see with this matchup how things go forward. We know Alorum is incredibly aggressive, and with this, I mean, the great part about this is I'm not even writing down this composition, because it can still kind of go anywhere for AOE Randoms. They can continue as the game goes through to manipulate and adjust the way that their composition is set up around the map here. It's pretty straightforward coming from Zeus Gaming. So, I mean, I'm loving what I'm seeing. You know, it might not make you super confident here, Dia, but I really like this going out on a limb as this team. We're going to see how these waters are tested.
Oh my lord, yeah, like this is not something that was even on the predictions coming into today. It's something that we start off the series with. You talk about how you've got a few games to play with here. You've always got buffers, but surely that means you have time before you whip out the truly insane things. It doesn't look like we're waiting at all, and I assume from the draft that we're getting a Senna Maokai bot lane, a Nasus top lane. Like you say, there's still a fair amount of flexibility, but since the champions, even depending on where they go, will be doing more or less the same things, let's talk a little bit about how these guys want to play.
In the meantime, I'm going to throw out the whistle there. Got to get a little bit of a dog prediction. Sorry, I distracted myself there. What was the question?
No, nothing. I just wanted to sort of ask you to give me your thoughts on how Zeus want to play the game versus how AOE Randoms want to play the game. Composition alone, right, will inform a lot of how they want to play team fights or objectives, whatever it is.
Absolutely, and this is pretty standard, honestly, from what you see from Zeus from this type of, oh, hey, good boy, Monty. Get over here. And, you know, so I think it's really straightforward. Like I said, you're looking at the composition on the side of AoE, you're like, okay, I'm not even going to write this down. This is very straightforward. It's high initiation, it's high damage. It's not quite the Kari statement of the get down, Mr. President, you know, for the ADCs like we see in a lot of these games. It's really just an idea of getting to the team fight stage as quickly as possible and being able to take advantage of that with the initiation that they have. So Monty, here, buddy. You gotta take a seat. Come here.
Oh, we get. Is this the dog prediction?
Yep, it is. Monty, sit down.
Oh my god.
Okay. So we got on the blue side, we've got Zeus. On the red side, we've got AOE. All right, what are we thinking? Look at me. Here, pick a paw. He's like,
If he doesn't pick the side with the dog, I don't know what to think.
Monty, come on. Pick a paw. He's like, wow, are you going to pet me? Pick one. Come on. Oh, he went with Zeus. All right, it was twice.
Oh my god.
I'm sorry, because the second I put it out, so he went with the farther hand.
Okay.
So Monty, he didn't want to. You could kind of see he was like, I don't want to have to say it, but it looks like a Zeus prediction from
Okay,
Monty.
I'm gonna write that down. Zeus predicted by Monty. Here we go. We'll keep score. I have no doubt. I have no sort of dubiousness about me in terms of how the dog will perform. However, I am, of course, a little bit curious about how Zeus will perform, because I don't think that they were particularly challenged last week, but I also don't think that Golden Guardians were playing to the team play level that we saw AOE randoms do. And I think that there is a lot of team fight potential here. There's a lot of side lane potential, very clearly, from Chim, but AOE randoms are somebody who will dance around you given the right situation.
For sure, and I'm sincerely hoping that this is one of those instances, especially if it is, you know, I mean, a new attempt by these guys. You can assume that this is not like a pick on the fly. I mean, a couple of these in there, yes, but at the end of the day, they're like, hey, let's give it a shot. And so they do have a lot of split pressure. The only concern that I have really with this team is if there is a lot of forward momentum early game from Zeus, it's going to be really hard for randoms to recover from that. You do have the split ability, so you do have the opportunity, you know, recover on creep score if you fall behind and things like that. But if there's a lot of just pressure overall, if you have priority in these lanes to where Zeus gets just honestly early kills and early pressure, that's where I see the struggle coming through, because you don't have, you know, a big front line and initiator even behind in Maokai. You have to have a little bit of, you know, you got to get the items, you got to get a little bit in the game. And so this feels like a later game team for AOE randoms, and Zeus, they're looking to hit hard and heavy right off the bat.
Yeah, they've got a lot of pressure to do so as well, because that Nautilus should be able to roam, whereas Maokai, who has to farm, really can't. So for early game explosive plays, I'm really keeping my eye on Rhino to see what he brings. That being said, though, we do have to take a very short break before we get into the game so that we can get all synced up on our end and bring you what is sure to be an exciting semifinals matchup. We'll be back in just a few minutes.
What are you willing to lose? You cover your own.
One more hook forward from Skytech, won't be able to find the mark. Now it's Leo99 trying to make the play all by himself. No support, finally the jungler's gonna arrive. Josie's here, has been a lilting lullaby. One more crash down, watch down, Eve, and the blows will find it. Flashing for the final auto onto Skytech, who will burn down to the grave. Leo looking for the dive onto the turret, the flash away. We're going in, Perry's already gonna go down, but so is Pockets. It's a 1-for-1 so far, but Josie has the shield. Look at the flash over the wall from Leo. He gets everyone in it. Double kill already to Josie. And Porsche is not long for the world. Meslo's gonna drop as well. One more root, one more auto from Short Hop, and the shutdown goes his way. Pockets trying to force the issue though before you can settle in, before you can take a breath. And here comes Shim as well with Paranoia trying to flash away. Can he get himself out to safety? Massive knock up onto everyone from Skytech, but one more to be returned. This one's even better from Leo. It's got AP ratios, and he's just gonna rinse this fight. They're gonna turn this thing around. Evil Genius with Prodigies have gonna get wiped away.
I think so far it's been just fighting. Onto the edge row. He's gone up pretty hard by this. The damage is definitely there. And Josie is flashing on top of Leona, already gone. Josie has to go golden here, but it's just going to be the acceleration gate, the shot blast. That's an ace, a triple kill going over the lead.
Stop now. We'll let 'em swallow the pride. You're turning the tide.
And open arms. And here comes the re-engage coming on through. Nice stuff coming in. Beautiful work from Pockets. Just null and void everything they wanted to do. And that is an easy 2 kills secured by AOE randoms.
Dragon gets started here, and Chim ends up starting the fight as well. Only finds the single knockup, but RBM gets burst down before the equalizer can even come out. But Azanya's forced as well. It is all up to Jarquin from the Death Guard to find a single kill, but he just can't do it as Josie takes him down. Gets straight his focus as well. As the only member left alive is forced to run a triple kill. Goes to Short Hop here, and Shim ends up playing cleanup crew to finish off the ace, to finish off the soul, and turn AOE random size on the Baron. Find an engagement. Josie, I guess, is going to go for the flash steal, and there goes for it, and finds it as well. AOE friend, they keep themselves in the game on the back of their jungler. And never more so evident than it is around this Baron. Or sorry, around this turret. As the hook comes in from Pocus, the equalizer is big from the back line. We have Short Hop able to survive and even take down RBM. It's 2 picks for trying to make it 3 though as Shin goes forward. Josie needs to find the slows here. Vital trying desperately to get out, should be caught. It's just a slow chase down, a slow bleed out as AOE get caught overextended once more.
Keep your eyes out for AOE randoms because they don't care where you come from. They don't care about your backstory. They want you and they want your nexus.
Welcome to the Rift, ladies and gentlemen, for the first round of the semifinals. AOE Randoms up against Zeus Gaming. You've gotten a chance in the past couple minutes to see how AOE Randoms did their way here, but now, Jolly, we get to see how it continues.
This is my favorite part, when the game actually starts. Nothing too crazy. This is the standard setup too right now. You can see this 5 split across the map. And particularly from AOE actually really displaying that of just this setup of you move yourself to this location to ensure that there are no invades. And it's not to counter them. It's just so that you have eyes on everyone across the map. And just ensures that there is, no tricky play going on behind the scenes. Everybody's aware of who is in what position on the map.
Yeah, I'm really scared for the time where AOE Randoms actually try a level 1, because Zeus Gaming showed us just last week that they very clearly have an answer to those level 1s. What I'm really looking at in this game is that level 2, 3. Not just anywhere, not just in general, but specifically in the mid lane. Because Tuesday versus Leo is a matchup we didn't get to talk about too much in Draft and Champion Select, but should be very volatile.
Volatile and fun one. You've just got an ADC off here, and it's going to be a lot of pressure from everyone because both of their kits kind of require them to use their abilities and to try to put as much priority into the lane as possible. Rhino is already going in though.
Yeah, interesting choice to try and engage at level 1. We'll be given over a few souls here, but interrupts Pocus's ability to farm, as that's exactly what he'll be doing. Short hop is going to be on the Senna here and trying to get as many souls as possible without actually taking the CS. It's worth noting, especially as we get into the game though, that if you're new to watching Amateur, if you haven't seen these teams before, Karasuno Setter will be referred to as Short Hop, and way will to as Griffin.
Right. Short Hop being one of the favorites here. Another initiation from Rhino though.
Yeah, we're going really aggressive on this bot side. Raheen and Rhino are really trying to cement some sort of early lead, which into a Senna Maokai, I understand, but it's got to be for something, and I suspect that it's about getting Rhino a little bit more space.
And honestly, also if you've got a Nautilus, that has been the meta. Level 1, you get a hook. You try to get as much damage as possible. The nice thing, though, is AoE has been positioning them so that Pocus is the one that has gotten hooked every time. And that means that Short Hop has just been able to sit back and do what Senna does best. Get some, poking down and get a little bit of that increased range thanks to the souls there. So it's working out really well for AoE. Rhino, though, and Raheen have been taking a ton of damage. They're going to get another root, but once again, it's on Pocus. So very successful on these fights for AoE.
Yeah, we just continue to get basically null and void trades until, of course, the junglers show up. As Griffin finally pops into this bot lane, so is Josie, and Pucka's gonna end up burning that cleanse. First blood still goes over to Griffin, but Josie at the same time is going low, might fall one more time, is burning down right now, but just barely keeps himself up. Griffin, despite being hit by that root, is still going to maintain his sanity. Well, unfortunately, Shorthop has lost his flash.
That's a lot of summoner spells down. I mean, honestly, across the board, you've got the cleanse and the flash out of Raheem. You've got the ignite and the flash out of Rhino there. So all 8 summoner spells, 4 on either side, have been blown. So at least you have that, as well as Josie. I mean, both junglers now having their flashes blown for that one too, and for 1 kill. Yes, you get the first blood. Yes, you get that early pressure. But honestly, that is a lot of summoners, a lot of abilities blown just to pick up that first blood. So, you know, you can't feel horrible as AoE because you at least evened out the spells that were used on that initiation.
Exactly, and as Zeus, I'm not feeling particularly bad for them either, especially if they're able to continue this momentum, because Griffin's already got 1 kill. We've seen what he can do with 2, and Shim's seen it too. That's why we blow another 2 summoners now. Right now, on the board, we have only 2 summoners left as a whole for AoE randoms, and they're Smite and Flash, not even on the same person.
No, and you've got a lot more there for Zeus. You've got the whole top side, Alorum, so that extra pressure that he's going to get will be helpful, and you want to be able to shut down this Nasus. The last thing you want is for Nasus to be able to sit up there and gather stacks as the game goes on, because again, the late game really is what AoE randoms are working towards here. It's going quite well for them, considering only 1 kill down in the first 5 minutes here, and they have been keeping focus on these objectives. We can see some nice vision being laid down, both aggressive and defensive, around this first dragon being Infernal, so it will be incredibly helpful. Both of these teams really looking for the engage in the initiation as the pings are coming out and the fight is being trying to be found out.
This is a little bit too aggressive, I dare say. Shorthop gets engaged on and is going to be all right, but Raheem's coming in from the side, and Josie is trying to make his way forward there, does get slows, and this is going to be a kill going over as Rhino ends up falling, all while Alorum has the teleport, which is what I was worried about, but very clearly, Zeus don't want to use it.
They didn't. They were kind of split there. They knew that there was the, just overhead in terms of positioning was in control there by AoE randoms. So they knew they were split back. They knew they had the disadvantage in vision and had to disconnect from that. And the last thing that you want Josie to get after picking up that kill is an Infernal Drake. But there's a little bit of solace in Zeus knowing that that Infernal Drake hasn't been taken. They got the kill, they pushed back to their lanes because they were losing priority, and now that objective is back evenly on the table for both teams.
And it's interesting because just by leaving it up alone, AoE randoms feel very clearly confident in being able to start up another initiation around that objective, be able to take more kills, and this is what they excelled at just last week, was their ability to constantly force engages where there were no win scenarios being set up for the main roster. Now, they're looking to run that back one more time against Zeus Gaming. Very clearly, Zeus Gaming are not going to take that lying down. Rhino walks up to the mid lane and is trying to put down as much pressure as he can to get a little bit more help for his team.
They've still got that nice aggressive ward on the opposite side of the Dragon Pit, so they'll, as it goes down, I pointed out, as
Caster
it falls
curse
to
the
the
ward.
ping, the ping's coming out. All right, we don't know where they at. We have vision on either side here, in the tri-bush. We've got it on our side of the river, but there is a lot of potential for them, so eyes need to be kept on the side of AoE, and we can see that there is no lack of respect coming out from Zeus in recognition of that. They're getting some extra pressure, though, here, not just priority, in the mid lane. They got that top scuttle crab, and they're throwing down some more defensive vision along the river here, and now a very aggressive move. The equalizer's gonna come out.
Wow, it's just to chunk out Josie as well, but wise positioning from him is going to mean that he gets out alive, even with the help of the Blast Cone. Meanwhile, in top lane, Alorum is benefiting from all that pressure because Chim knows he can't stay around in the face of 4 people in his top side.
Leo taking a lap there too. You got the recalls coming through. They got what they wanted, though. I mean, yes, the equalizer's down. Not a very long cooldown. Certainly one of the shorter ones, especially for these junglers. So Griffin isn't feeling too bad about that. And on top of it, you also steal that red buff away. So A little bit of pressure, but that means that in recognition that those two players are on the top side of the map, they're just going to go straight for that dragon. And Leo is doing a great job of keeping Tuesday here in the mid side as the pings are coming out still from AOE. No way! Raheen gets
They actually managed to take it! And Raheen is just going to have to burn his flash to get away. It's a small price to pay for having a gold and an objective lead when you really shouldn't.
We missed that too. It was actually, I mean, Raheen had to flash over the wall, so it's not as though it was just a random Void Seeker to try to steal that one away. Certainly calculated coming from that side, and the vision really, really helping them out here. Like I said, along the entire river, just trying to keep an eye on the whole team, and it looked like Leo was keeping Tuesday in the mid lane, but actually that might have been Tuesday saying, all right, we're going to make Leo assume that I've got control, or, you know, that he's got control here, that I will be staying here. Little do they know, Raheen is going to be the one initiating this.
And I wanna call this back as well, since we got to take a look at both the solo lanes right after that dragon fell. That I was worried about Tuesday's performance on the Tristana. It's sort of a new look for him this season, playing the actually aggressive laners. He's not going with the Oriannas, the Victors. He's been playing the Lucians, the things like the Tristana, and of course into Leo, who's very willing to go to bat with him on the Lucian himself. There's a few questions that I had, but if we take a look at both the solo lanes, they were both picked in high-pressure matchups, and they're both ahead in CS. Zeus Gaming are doing really well right now.
Figuring out how to keep pressure in the early game, and that's exactly what they need to do to take down AOE Random's composition here. Once more, I mean, they're looking for the late game, and all that Zeus needs to do is keep this early advantage, keep the pressure, and then get to this, you know, these team fight stages. That's kind of the big thing that I need to see from Zeus to continue on with this forward momentum that they have, is you can't let it get into too late of the game, because as you do, you're going to have a lot of scaling and a lot more initiation available, as well as frontline from AOE Randoms. So that's kind of what they're hoping and looking for. Need to see some more big fights coming out of Zeus on this to try to take this early lead and really make it into a solid game advantage.
And now that Griffin has managed to pick up the Rift Herald as well, those fights can be even more explosive, can put you even further ahead. So I like their objective focus, even though it isn't directly an investment into kills and actually taking people off the map. When those people do fall, when Leo, for example, is getting pressured under this mid lane, it matters so much more, since Griffin, he can just walk in, drop the Rift Herald, and take the tower.
And there it is, the Rift Herald coming out in the mid. You can't stop that first charge from Shelly. I mean, you can get a little bit of a root down. That will be the first tower, so even more gold going over to Zeus. We have got 4 Noon Quivers here as well, thanks to all of these ADCs. Call the Forge God is going to come out on his chimp.
Yeah, Chim is actually taking a lot of damage here, even losing against Alorum, and before Nasus really hits that first item, the Divine Sunderer that I'm expecting into Alorum to try and take him down, he's really taken a beating. He is not a pushover on this Ornn.
No, absolutely not. One of the I can never get over how much damage this tanky man can do, and that's my big problem with him, especially going into this 4-Chim. Is, you know, you can try to get that later game advantage. Nice little stop there to prevent Alorum from actually getting the recall. Not going to be a little more than that, but hey, those mental pokes, that's a big part of the game here, especially when you're going into big names like Alorum on the top side.
Now, I know we don't get to see Nasus's too much in coordinated play, so I want to update everybody in the audience. We're at about 100, 115 stacks right now for Chim, so we'll keep an eye on that as it continues, but that stacking game has really got to step up if they want to even have a mid-game to speak of on AOE Randoms, because they're already losing in global pressure. Raheen is getting exactly what he wants, which is to be able to sit solo in the bot lane and farm up versus Short Hop, who doesn't really want to farm anyway, and things are going real south for AOE Randoms real fast, to the point that they almost just have to roll the dice on a late game fight at this point.
That's what it certainly feels like, because what Zeus is going for with this composition, basically, I was looking for the ability to start moving towards these team fights and start really heavily roaming pre-15 minutes. That's kind of the idea. You want to force out that team fight stage as early as possible. And so with the roams that we've been seeing from Rhino, they've been very, very successful with that. And yeah, they managed to steal away the dragon as well. You might lose a kill for it, so it's only 1-1. That's probably the craziest part of this matchup, is that we're at 13 minutes in this game, and we've only witnessed 2 kills. There have been several fights, there have been several back and forths, but both of these teams are moving forward with a little bit of trepidation because they know that this kind of sets the stage for how the rest of the games may go. But it's also a little bit of trial and error coming from AOE with such a crazy composition that they pulled out here at the last minute, having selected that Nats as the final pick. So it's not too far gone. That's the thing, is you've got the late game, but you have to make sure that Zeus doesn't get too much before actually hitting that. And this dragon will be extra pressure and more of exactly what Zeus wants.
Yeah, it might not be too much just yet, but it's starting to get there as the second dragon is going to fall. As you say, the third dragon going to be revealed to be a Cloud Drake. So at the very least, AoE randoms are thanking their lucky stars that they don't have to contend with something like an Ocean that would definitely have been game warping.
Not something that you need with the initiation already available there from the other side. And hey, speaking of initiations, looks like AoE found one.
We're going at it down here with just the Noon Quiver alone. Short Hop and Pocus want to take a fight. Short Hop gets initiated on them. The Equalizer gets dropped. Has to burn the ultimate just to try and stay alive, but it's not enough as Teleport down from Alorum is going to be able to respond. Pocus under the tower right now might be able to get away, but he gets knocked up twice, 3 times, and taken down by Raheen.
Lots of ultimates used there, and you've got 2 teleports on the side of Zeus. You don't have a single teleport on the side of AoE, so these kinds of fights, we can expect the fact that Zeus is going to be utilizing their teleports very efficiently. As soon as you recognize you can have the man advantage without somebody showing up from the jungle, I mean, you might as well take it, and that's another thing that Zeus has recognized here. We have that TP advantage, and we have the initiation advantage at the moment, so we have to take advantage of it while we still push this early lead. It's still, again, I mean, it's only 4K, but 15 minutes in and a 4K differential is pretty rough. It's not really where you want to be sitting right now, especially with a late game pick.
This is a big issue, though, because as much as those teleports looked good, Chim was able to get a kill at the end of the usage of one of them, actually, as Tuesday tried to rotate up top and put pressure back down there. The 2v1 is just not really going to go in your favor, and the numbers advantages at this point are still something that Zeus do have to rely on.
I certainly do. Those TPs will help, but with both of them being burned down, you can't really make much use of a summoner spell that's already gone here, and that evens out the kills, but these haven't really been team fights still. We've been seeing these split fights, you know, at most of that group, the 3v2 down on the bottom side, but, you know, we've only got 6 kills across the board, and that's because it's a lot of these splits, it's a lot of attempts at focusing on these objectives, and then some sort of pinch coming through, some sort of teleport, or just navigation through the jungle there, and we can already see what kind of a stance AoE Randoms has had to take of the position of their vision. It's so defensive compared to Zeus, who have been able to do a lot of aggressive vision, able to go into the enemy jungle and throw stuff down so they can continue to make these exact kinds of plays. This is exactly what they want. They want to keep catching people off guard, and that means when it gets to that team fight stage, there's really no chance that AoE has to initiate appropriately.
And I know that it's a lot of pressure, but AoE randoms, they need to be the ones that pull out something here that forces a no-win scenario. And from 4,000 gold behind, it is so hard. Pocus, I think, tries a little bit too hard and has been caught out as the Equalizer gets dropped. He's going to get burned through, and Tuesday is going to end up getting a kill. I was hoping that Chim was going to be the one to start things off now that he's got that Divine Sunder, but it looks like his lane's just going as chill as ever, while everybody else just runs it straight down into Zeus.
They got the tower. They're going to continue the pressure on the top side as well. These members going to throw out Kelly.
Oh my god.
That's what I call the secondary one, and more initiation.
Yeah, Short Hop is going to fall right here. Ripchild's going to get a second charge into the inhibitor tower, no less, and Rhino with a great knock up into a hook, almost takes down Leo here. That blast will take care of him under his Nexus towers, but the base is now broken for the AoE randoms, and they're finding nothing else map-wide. Chim tries to go aggressive in this bot side, but even he can't do anything against this Ornn. Alorn might turn this around.
There's the flash, though, so Chim is going to escape Call of the Forge Guard, and then you also have the ultimate coming down from Senna to try to provide a little bit of additional healing and damage there, so there was the ability to get away from that, but that was Chim blowing the ultimate and the flash for what turned out to be not a successful operation down on the bottom side. No kill and no pickup on the tower. There's a lot of pressure, a lot of damage dealt to it, but that's already the case for Zeus facing off an AoE's bottom tower, so it kind of evens things out, and then there wasn't really a ton of vision placed, so it is a nice thing. That's one consoling thing, I guess. The consolation is Chim doing a great job of, while making these roams, continuing to place aggressive and defensive vision across the map, just to ensure that they can take advantage of every scenario and option they are given.
The respite is brief for the AoE randoms, though, as that vision that you allude to is already being placed down by Zeus around this next dragon. It would be sole point for Zeus Gaming, and I don't think that the randoms can stop it right now.
This is a tough one, especially with Chim down here in the bottom, potentially getting pinched on. I mean, you can't do anything here. Too far away from the rest of the team. The base is being broken into. There is no health on this tower, and it's going to be an engage.
All right, well, Nessus pops the ult. Let's see how long he can survive with the siphoning strike. It seems like it's longer than we thought it was, but even under the tower, he's going to explode. So it's not only that dragon, but the bot tower that's going to go over to Zeus Gaming. They expand that gold lead now to 7,000 gold, and that's without a Baron. That's without any sort of crazy team fights, really. It's been these small skirmishes.
All small skirmishes. I kind of feel bad for you as the play-by-play here in terms of team fights. It's been so lackluster. I mean, like I said, it's been a lot of 2v1s or at most a 2v3. So you get, one team's amount there. We haven't really even seen a full-on big initiation. And I can tell that AoE randoms are scared of that because you have these things like the Equalizer and Call of the Forge God that are coming out so frequently that have such short cooldowns. And then the backup Tuesday and Raheen on these ADCs. And now an initiation is going to come through onto Alorum, but they're not going to be able to make anything of it. Staying very, very safe here by this tower, and the move on Dragon is going to be easy. This is something I think, though, AoE randoms, they knew, they acknowledged. You mentioned a little bit ago, Dia, it's like, okay, at least it's a Cloud Drake. It's not something worse. But Chim, once again, caught out of position.
And that's the real tough thing, right? You see Josie in the top side, you know that Dragon is going to start up. It's got to be a team call, but right now Chim seems so disjointed from the team. Knowing that Dragon has gone down, once again pushes up way beyond where he should be. And, I'm sorry, it doesn't feel good, but where you should be right now is your base, because you cannot push anything.
Especially not when the top side has an inhib open and you're trying to push hard bottom side. Without a teleport available as well from Chim, that means that if decidedly all of the pressure moves up there, you're going to have to recall and you're going to have to run from base and hope that the home guard buff is enough to get you engaged in the fight. That, or you can try to maintain pressure, throw down vision, clear out enemy vision, and at least have some sort of idea of where they might be approaching. That's really the only way that advantages can be found here by AoE randoms, and that has to start with Chim joining the team.
It really does, and even when he does, I think that part of this is also whether they win or lose. I'm not saying anything about the direction this game is headed in, but whether they win or lose, AoE randoms have to address the fact that they don't really have that initiation next game anyways, because right now it is really biting them in the butt, because Zeus get to walk around the entire map and just take whatever fights they want, walk away from whatever they don't. And Tuesday right now, he wants everything. Josie's forced to go golden there, gets a 4-man sleep, but who's gonna follow it up?
Oh my goodness, and here is the big struggle too. They think that they found some advantage with Alorum down on the bottom side, but that meant that there was a 4-man advantage up on the top side, and they're going to continue this engage.
The randoms just look so lost right now, and even in their base, Zeus, they're going to show them where they stand, and it is right back in their fountain. Base going to be broken in a second spot right here. Likely inhibitor going to go down as the ace is completed, and everybody is going to be able to walk away from this, turn towards potentially that next objective, the Baron, that now Zeus Gaming are more than comfortable taking.
Absolutely. They're going to clear out some of the enemy jungle, though, and probably make a move towards that. You've got the point in the game where Zeus have just forced AoE randoms to clear out their base, try to clear out any enemy vision that they could possibly do, and then also safely throw down a little bit of their own defensive vision. They do have some wards already placed up there towards the red buff, so we can see that. But the rest of the map, they have to be careful, and you can't have things like Chim trying to go in and get some pressure down, trying to throw a ward down without the vision already being there or without the backup of the team being there. So really, Zeus can kind of choose how they want to do things here, and by not going for the Baron, you can assume as AoE randoms that they either have a plan to move for that or have another plan in their back pocket, and that plan generally would allude to an initiation.
We've got to hope that they can find something akin to it right now. Is Josie's sleep is probably their best bet at a hard initiate, but it doesn't seem like Zeus are even interested in risking that Baron right now. They can walk it down with Alorum, who, like you said, has that call to Forge God, has an initiate whenever he wants it. Right now, he certainly wants it. Gets a double knock up onto the 280 carry. Short top is going to go down while Leo struggles to put in the damage. Josie's fallen in the meantime, and Tuesday gets to flash forward onto Leo to try and finish him off. Jim is trying to play the hero in the backside, but he's just getting peeled, and Nasus isn't getting to play the game. A double kill goes to Griffin. Tuesday chases Pocus under the tower, and it is all fun and games for the Zeus roster right now because they have nothing to lose. They're already winning the game.
The game is going to be over, and yeah, you might have picked up the kill there on Tuesday, but your Nexus is being destroyed, and the aggression that has been coming out here, these split fights from Zeus, they are completely in control here as the Nexus begins to go down. The fight tries to be continued here by AOE, but all is lost. The equalizer dropping, and that is game.
It was so painful is the word that I'm going to end up going with, to watch as AOE randoms lost their way that game, because it didn't start out terribly. Zeus Gaming started it out wonderfully there. They had a great early game plan, and AOE randoms were chilling. But somewhere along that 15-20 minute mark, once that Rift Herald was dropped topside, we really saw what looked like a lost roster, and it was just the pressure. Exactly the thing you mentioned, the early game pressure from Zeus Gaming that really did away with the mental.
And I mean, I think you're right about the big point feeling, especially towards the end of the game. This just disjointed nature among these members is really what I felt very hard. You know, everything from Chim navigating too far out to really just, I mean, AOE not being able to dictate any of these fights, and that was because Zeus was approaching them in such a manner that they're like, all right, we are going in on this, we are initiating here. There was a lot of confidence behind that decision, and the splits ended up never being in the favor, like the man splits, if you will, you know, the amount of players in these fights were never in favor of AOE. They were always swayed towards Zeus, and so going forward here, I think a little bit more of a cohesive, honestly, just a composition, trying to figure out more of a win condition and then a fallback, like I said, because if that win condition is staunched right away by Zeus, who are going to be looking to do that immediately, you got to have some sort of fallback here, kind of like their double ADC pick.
I think you said it best yourself at Champion Select as well, that it is a best of 5. We do have time to experiment very clearly. This is the time to experiment for AOE, but that is going to rapidly come to a close as the series goes on, and I can only hope that it comes to a close once we get onto the Rift next, because Game 2 is going to be even more of a nail-biter, potentially moving Zeus to match point. But before we get to that, we're going to take a short break before we hear from our analyst desk about what happened in Game 1.
Welcome back to AOE Esports. My name is Kari Wave. I am joined here with DJ and Hawk. Gentlemen, can you believe that Tuesday threw that game for Zeus? What a
Yeah,
wild game!
that
So
was crazy.
Yeah,
I
just
mean,
kidding. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I could
We'll,
keep.
we'll bring him back from the Steins Gates alternate timeline here. That's that one's. You know how in that show it kind of works where like the change has to be large enough to actually shift the timeline. Yeah, we were that timeline's way out on the fringe of that change there because that game was very one-sided.
I'm so sorry I couldn't keep it together long enough to let that bit go on. I was like, I'm gonna lose it. I'm gonna lose it. It's too mean. So,
I was gonna say,
just
it was Doggo Diff, but
Doggo Diff. I think that we can kind of narrow it down to what happened here, but I would like DJ's perspective first about where it all went wrong for AoE.
Where it all went wrong fairly early on here, I think, Kari, and I think mostly in draft. Unfortunately,
very early on.
so I think even before the game, there were a lot of problems here, and I think this is something that Hawk will talk about as well. The biggest thing we see, even more so than specific champion picks here, is just sort of the difference in identity coming out in these drafts. We were talking about AoE randoms wanting to kind of duke it out with a lot of teams in the early to mid game, stack some dragons, run the game on their own tempo, where Pocus can roam, where they can get short hop to a safe but fed sort of point in the game and help out their top side. And this draft is just completely different than the identity that AoE randoms has been showing us throughout this tournament, that has been helping them achieve these great successes that they've had against their other AoE, against EGP, against all these other teams. And this for Zeus was just tried and true, right? Incredibly strong top side. Lorem can play whatever he wants. You give Tuesday and Winston priority. You give Raheen a comfort champion and Rhino a roamer. And look at what happens. They look gorgeous. They look put together. They dominate the entire game. It's clear from the off what they want to do. And for AoE, it just looked all over the place. The identity just not there from them.
No, and I think that we can all agree that being able to make a late game play, if you draft a late game comp, you have to make it to late game. You can't let them crack your armor that early on. I mean, we saw them in the base at 17 minutes, so not being able to make that fasting Senna comp make it to late game, and then you've got your Nasus insurance, I guess, in the top lane. It all kind of fell apart just based on game time alone. Hawk, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I feel like, as DJ just said, Zeus just played what their composition wanted to do. Griffin just all over the map from level 4 going down to the bottom side. It was 3v3, but it didn't matter. Rumble does more damage than Lilia in the early game. That is a fact of life. You're never going to win that 3-on-3 if you're AoE randoms. They get first blooded, and the game starts to fall apart from there as Griffin slowly takes control of the map, then going for the invade on the red buff, forcing him out of his own jungle. The steal on the dragon in response. It just started going downhill, and it starts from Zeus understanding their win conditions. And I think if AoE wants to try to claw something back in this series, it's through Pockets. We talked about him before the series started. We want to see this guy roaming. We want to see him trying to get paired up with his own jungler, with his mid laner, trying to make plays happen, trying to dictate some of the tempo of the game. And you can't do that with Fasting Senna. You need to dish the Fasting Senna pick. I don't care if it's meta. I don't care if it's good. If you're AoE randoms, you put Short Hop on something that he can pop off on, and you put Pockets on something that he can roam on to try to make plays, to try to disrupt the game plan of Zeus.
Yeah, I'd love to see some roaming from that bot lane to help control the tempo of the game, to try to slow it down for themselves or speed it up as the case may be. But the whole key here has to be AoE randoms making the shots, calling the shots. You know what I mean? I think that that's the most important part. I almost dropped this all over my keyboard, but I caught it in the middle of my sentence. So disaster narrowly avoided, unlike
Not
this
for
game,
AoE.
unfortunately.
I see where this one's going, Kari.
Yeah, I appreciated that everybody knew where that segue was going. But that aside, I really appreciate that AoE did try something new, downloaded the data, as we say when we're keeping it hopeful here. Gentlemen, really quick, just one quick thing that will be the key to AoE trying to win this one. Give it to me. Let's start with DJ.
So in this draft, outside of the Lilia, we've had 3 champions played for Josie throughout this tournament. Rumble, Udyr, Diana. Here is my die. There are 6 sides to this die. 2 numbers for each champion. 1 and 2 is Rumble, 3 and 4 is Udyr, 5 and 6 is Diana. Pick one, draft it. It's a 3. It's Udyr. Let's go.
Got it. All right, easy. All right, Hawk, how about you? Give it to us.
I already said it. Roaming pockets. Get on something like Nautilus. Get on something that can get around and make plays.
Yep, I completely agree. I'd like to see an Alistair come out, cow in every bush, just some roams coming from that bot lane to affect especially the mid game. So let's throw it to our casters. We already have the next draft coming on up here.
Yes, indeed we do. And well, it's sorry, DJ, not exactly the Udyr that you were expecting, but still, I think you'll find yourself plenty happy because Diana has been locked in for AOE, and it's one of the things that the analyst desk brought up, Jolly, that I couldn't help but agree with. The jungle was such a missing part of AOE randoms last game that has been there for them every step of the way to make it here. Now a re-engagement with that Diana, something that has a little bit more comfort for the team, should turn things around.
It didn't feel like it was a horribly played Lilia either. There was, a lot of interference. There was a lot of help from the Lilia. Honestly, I feel like it's the initiation. That's mostly what I felt from it. I mean, I can absolutely agree that initiation from that jungler would be incredibly helpful here. So they're going to get it now with the Diana. But, a lot of similar picks locked in for Zeus. They figured out what worked well, and they're going to continue to roll with that. Same bans as well that you're getting to start this out from both teams exactly. So I do like the fact, though, we're going back to what works, not the comfort picks, but the really good picks here that AOE Randoms has had success on in the past, and that's what I wanted to see. I love Nautilus right now. I think he is absolutely the in terms of how things are played in the bottom lane, he is the strongest support, and AOE Randoms locking that one in with a flex like Tristana is a great start.
Yeah, that is the probably most impactful pick that I think we're going to see this series, because Rumble is really good, Rumble is really powerful, you can play around Rumble, but Nautilus is going to be in your face all game, and I'm excited now that the shoe is literally on the other foot, that Pocus is going to be able to ideally be able to show us why he's made his name on this champion this season as well. The Tristana being picked up, like you say, as a flex is interesting, and I can't help but appreciate that Tuesday has thrown down the gauntlet, locking in the Lucian on the other side.
Yeah. Already said, okay, you know what? If that's the case, I've got what I need. If that's not the case, then fine, bring it on, because Lucian is very, very strong right now, a great mid laner, and we know that Tuesday is incredibly comfortable and successful on this Lucian. So, I mean, again, if it's not broken, don't fix it here. And so Zeus Gaming is just kind of locking in the same style that they had. Heavy initiation and heavy engage. And then they're going to be focusing on getting in as many fights as possible, or getting to that fight stage as quickly as possible. But the Diana, the Nautilus, these other picks that we're getting in response from AOE are so much better than we saw in that first game. And again, they kind of, they played around game number 1. That's okay. That's allowed. Back to business here for game number 2, though.
Absolutely. And as it's been noted already, you say that Zeus is going for this heavy initiate style composition. They don't have the completeness of one just yet. The Leona and Malphite have been taken away from AOE to try and mitigate any sort of actual hard engage that they have, but crucially, that Ornn is still available, and Aloran, even blind, should be able to pilot that into almost any matchup. With AOE locking in a Jhin in the bot lane, and Tristana is going mid lane, and Zeus have just these last 2 picks to make up where they're going to start fights from.
Oh,
you think? Oh my god, it is. Oh my god.
It's gotta be. Honestly, this is one of the picks that I was kind of hoping wouldn't come through. Aloran on this Urgot is nuts. Really, really high pick rate for this player. Not only that, but a very high success rate as well on the Urgot. And this is really the style of champion that Aloran likes best. The Urgot, the Aatrox, like I was saying, we saw in that last game pull out the Ornn. So that really heavy initiation, but also a lot of damage to back it up. Works very, very well for this team and this player in particular. But now they have a chance for Chim to give a little bit more of a counter here.
Yeah, this is going to be the gauntlet throw in the top lane as well, and all of a sudden, this game has gone from us being about, oh, how are they going to initiate, to, are we even going to get initiations, or are we just going to run it down the solo lanes? Whether it be Mordekaiser, whether it be Akali, somebody is going to die.
Someone is. I kind of like the Mordekaiser pick better there just for more of that kind of initiation, but it will be the Akali locked in here. So a lot of aggression from AOE randoms. Both teams kind of have the same idea here. Like you said, run it down, get this game started as quickly as possible, and try to end it as quickly as possible as well. I mean, we had, what, a 23, maybe 24-minute game for the first one, and I think AOE recognized, all right, this long game strat, it's just not going to work. There's too much aggression coming from Zeus. Let's mirror it. Let's give them a taste of their own medicine and see how well we can run with that.
I'm a little bit dubious about the Akali lock in here, although I respect the gumption, but you've got to remember that the last time Zeus played against an Akali, it was Niles who was playing the Akali, and Chim is many things. Chim is wonderful as a player, but Chim is not Niles, and I'm concerned about the actual ability to take over a game on Akali outside of just the laning phase, because it needs to be so much more than the dominant champion that we've come to know and hate inside of the actual first 7 minutes. It needs to be something that you can team fight with as well, and right now, with AOE not having too much of a front line, it's a tall order.
That's exactly what I was thinking, Dia. That's why I was like, I liked the Mord. I really liked the Mord lock in there. You also have the ability to pull somebody out. If you do have a heavy carry, having the Death Realm, the ability to take out, Raheen or Tuesday from one of these fights, or even Griffin, trying to initiate. So that would have been a nice opportunity. You're right, you're looking at this laning phase, you're looking at later in the game finding picks, getting good roam and good pressure, but not the team fighting that is what both of these compositions are really alluding to. So, I like this composition so much better from AOE than the last one. It was fun last time. They didn't end up really making it work, but especially with Chim on the Akali into Alorum's Urgot, that makes it even more frightening for me, and it would have made me feel even more comfortable having the Mordekaiser selection there. But you know what? I gotta give him faith. If that was the lock-in, there was some confidence behind it, so Akali might just pop off on this one.
Yeah, there's certainly been prep here. It's something that I'm giving my faith over to, and also I dare say that I'm going to have so much faith in the top lane that I'm not even going to focus there. I'm going to say, you know what, Alorum, Chim, you guys can beat the heck out of each other, because the game still does really boil down to me about how Josie can play a little bit differently this game. Again, you said it well. It's not like he played terribly last game. Lilia was really good, but there was a little bit of missing jungle impact, and Diana is somebody who doesn't have that problem. Diana should be able to initiate, engage, gank really well compared to that Lilia this game.
And early on, which has been a big part of the meta in this ELO. I've been seeing a lot of this collegiate, these teams, the amateur, collegiate, academy kind of style has been it has been my favorite part of League of Legends as of late, and I really like that about this meta. Early initiations, again, it's normal to see the Nautilus go for a level 1 hook. It's normal to see some of these junglers come through for a level 3 gank, believe it or not, and with champions in the jungle with as fast clears as Rumble, Morgana, Diana, Udyr, there is a lot of opportunity to make those early initiations. So I do like that Diana pick a lot more. You have a lot quicker ability to get some initiation in, and hopefully get a little bit of pressure to shut down some of the early game that we saw that worked so well for Zeus.
Yeah, let's keep our eyes on these junglers for sure, because like you say, the early game is something that was so crucial last game, and I'm expecting it to be just as impactful this time around. The ball needs to start get rolling early for AOE randoms, or Zeus could just take this. It's a terrifying time to be an AOE fan, but I'm right there with all of you in the audience going for AOE randoms here. Let's see if they can pull it out in game 2 in just a few minutes. Welcome back to the Rift, ladies and gents, as we get into game number 2 of AOE Randoms Gaming. I'm still Dion, I'm still joined by Jolly, but we are the things that have stayed the same. Everything else is pretty much swapped around because Zeus and AOE have basically traded compositions in the way of initiation. This time, it is AOE Randoms that have that Nautilus to be able to start fights, and it's Zeus that really don't have that many long-range engage tools.
Not many, but they still have a lot of the ability to, get you from across the wall. You've got the culling, you've got that Void Seeker that can be used for the Killer Instinct initiation. You've got Griffin's Equalizers, which are going to be coming out every 45 seconds, 40 seconds as the game goes on. So there is a lot of that ability to at least poke people down from afar, but much less of the ability to get that full-on initiation for sure, Dia, of being able to get like a hook in. Now we're seeing that from Pocus, and you have to kind of rely on just damage coming through from Zeus so that they can follow up on the initiation. Something like the Glacial Fissure is going to be super helpful for them, but you're absolutely right. In terms of being able to really go fully in with Josie on the Diana, Pocus on that Nautilus, and even Chim on the Akali to be able to use the Shroud to stay safely to get into those fights, there's a lot more opportunity for the early pressure from AOE Randos, and hopefully they acknowledge that as well, recognize that, and we see that early game here.
I wanted to bring up something, actually, as we got into the game, because you mentioned Chim on the Akali, and it was something that our producers don't maybe get as much love on broadcast as they necessarily deserve, but I'm going to throw our... Because ours noted as we got into the game, the Akali, it simply needs to win. That is the purpose of the pick right here, and you've got to make it happen. Mid lane, Leo's trying to make it happen on the Tristana. 2 flashes get blown, but nobody goes down.
And look at that teamwork, Tuesday. Well played. Leo and Tuesday both utilizing their flashes and that, both getting so incredibly low, and both acknowledging that they played incredibly well in terms of that initiation. Tuesday did end up getting a little bit more health out of that in the long run, so get some pressure here. And no surprise that we are already seeing some pretty massive rotations coming around. There's Griffin showing up again, level 3, like I said, but Josie goes in.
He just goes for it. This time it's Josie who gets the first blood, but still might go down there. Leo's going to try and clean this up, but Griffin's doing a lot of damage to him and has that flame spitter back up here. Is it going to be a double kill for the jungler? It is! Griffin, please!
Oh, and barely staying alive, flashing at the last moment to prevent another shot from that tower. A nice little start there in the mid lane for Zeus. Rando's got the consolation. They got the first blood, a little bit of extra gold there, and now they're going to try to initiate bottom. Just some pokes. You got a nice big shield there coming from that Braum, so a good selection. You know, as rough as it is for Braum early game, being just very, very low health until you get some items, having the passive of concussive blows, I think is one of the most busted passives in the game, to be honest.
And it's so useful on his team as well, with the amount of ranged auto attackers. Those concussive blows land, and you're basically already stunned. But Braum is the only one that's having a difficult early game because, as you'll recall, we did just get that double kill going over to Griffin, who's having a great time. But Leo burned his teleport to give him a double kill, and is now even further behind the Lucian than I thought possible.
But you know what? Leo's still performing really well. And you know what? When you got someone like Tuesday telling you that was a well-played initiation and forcing the flash out of that kind of player, it works out. The TP is down for both sides. And now we have 2 TPs on either team. And I think that's another thing to kind of point out that was missing from the last game, was you had the ghost from Chim up in the top side, so you didn't have the teleport available, and you didn't have it from Leo either, and so it was much more defensive. This allows them for more initiation, not just from the composition, but also from having those summoner spells available, and I think that's something that Zeus has recognized and has kind of put in the backs of their minds of, all right, we can't be quite as aggressive as we were before. We need to expect it back now from AOE.
You know, we saw it right there in the mid lane as well. Pocus going on his signature roam with the Nautilus, and Tuesday playing very respectfully, not with the aggression that we've already seen in the mid lane at this point. And things are on a little bit of a nice edge whenever you do see AOE randoms dip into the fog of war. Outside of that, though, Josie is looking to make it even more problematic. The top lane, they're forcing the flash from Alorum, is still going to go for the trade and likely won't find anything. But it's this aggression that matters because the summoner spell was taken, and that's the jungle autonomy that I was craving.
And it's funny to look back at that, how much damage was dealt in response to Josie. So you've immediately got Alorum like, oh, was that flash actually necessary to burn, or would I have been able to get out because of the flip? It ended up being a great initiation. As soon as Josie tried to go in, Alorum flipped and then immediately flashed, but dealt so much damage that, yeah, you kind of have that feeling in the back of your head.
Equalizer just came up for Griffin right now. He literally took the Krugs, dinged, pinged bot, and now Pocus and Short Hop are likely going to die. At least somebody's up for this. Exhaust comes down, and Pocus is the one that pays for the sins of staying into a Griffin.
Could be a lot worse. That means that Short Hop was able to get out. Short Hop kind of staying a little bit long, just going to throw a little bit of shade over at Griffin, saying, hey, nice attempt at a recall. I can stop it 2 times and still be at full health. Got to be careful and watch out for the mana, though. One of the harder things early game on this Jhin, especially when you have a roaming Nautilus, is to expect to go through that pretty quickly. But with a Kai'Sa on the other side, it evens things out pretty well. And the gold lead, it is over 1K right now in favor of Zeus, but things are going to change any moment here as Josie decides to continue to initiate. We got some pings towards the mid side, some pings of a missing Urgot as Alorum tries to do a little bit of navigation as well. We might get a fight coming out here.
Yeah, Pocus has been spotted and has to dredge line his way to safety. Will eat a little bit of poke from Tuesday on his way out, but the fact is that just being spotted on that roam was enough to dissuade any sort of play, although Leo, certainly not dissuaded enough, just jumps into Fog of War.
Yeah, rocket jump, and hey, Griffin was very happy about that one. Yes, the culling was burned, but that's absolutely fine. Even more pressure now on the mid side here, and let's even put it into the enemy jungle. You get the thumbs up emote there coming out of Tuesday. Recognition, the pressure in the mid has been activated here by Zeus. They're gonna go in. A little more salt in the wound, and Chim is
going to be a team fight. Chim is in big trouble right now, but the curtain call might turn things around. Josie does get a 3-man ult there. Back as Alorum does manage to pick up a second kill. Griffin is chasing the AD carry and there's not much he can do about it, but Leo is the one that plays the hero here. Alorum gets a nice disdain to flip Leo right back in and forces the flash away while Short Hop is trying to chase down Alorum and Tuesday. He can't quite get them, burns the flash to try and keep up with a teleport to the top side. These could be even more so low right now. They want to get Chim, but I don't know if they can because Alorum's gonna get away.
He's so dang fast. All of these abilities are missing. Leo is now going to come through on this one and get the hop. It looks like Alorum will finally go down. That was a lot of resources and time expended on getting Alorum the first death, or facing his first death of the game, but it's going to give them priority here on this Rift Herald.
And it gets everybody a kill, right? We have one on everywhere on the map, and we might be getting even more as Pocus goes for an engage on Raheen, who's had a pretty good time farming alone in that bot side.
That's going to be it, though. And look at the vision that now AOE Randoms has recognized. It's got to be really defensive again. We've already had invades, we've already had crazy pressure, and this mid side is clearly vulnerable because they've been able to focus it pretty often. So you've got 4 wards down. Yes, a lot of that was placed during the fight to try to get a little bit of vision so that the initiation could continue there, but it is a nice little acknowledgement by AOE of, all right, we're only 9 minutes into the game. We're looking at over a 2K gold lead for Zeus, so we already need to start showing some respect.
It's certainly showing it right now. Leo gonna respectfully rocket jump out of a trade with Tuesday and give Zeus a little bit more priority over this draft. Maybe might go down too to that culling, but on single-digit HP, managed to stay alive, has the teleport up as well, so contest for Dragon is still technically possible.
Tuesday really wanted to get the pressure there, but it looks like the rest of AOE is coming in to help Leo out. That concussive blows. I honestly, gosh, I absolutely love that, but it hasn't really been utilized as much as Rhino would like here. This might be the opportunity.
No. Oh, there's a teleport in here as well, though. AOE Randoms want to fight. They found Alorum, but that equalizer just so much. Forcing a flash from Griffin, though, is a good start. Picking up Leo is even better, though, for Zeus Gaming. They will still ultimately back off as the Rift Herald is going to reset. Raheen continues to farm in this bot side, but AOE Randoms get what they came for. The Rift Herald is theirs.
As you get the reset, the ping's coming out. I mean, at that point, if you are Zeus, you know who is in possession of that. Short hop now looking for an engage here as well, catching Raheen out a little too close to the tower.
Is Raheen gonna try? I think Raheen just might try and die right now. He's got the tower right there to just walk through, and he's burning so much time from Pocus and Short Hop. Even the flash from Pocus has to be expended there and might still trade back, but just on a sliver of health, Short Hop will survive, taking down Raheen.
Once again, both Leo and Short Hop have experienced that very, very intense feeling of being at single digits, but still being able to pick something up from it. And AOE is finding ways to staunch the progression of Zeus Gaming over and over again.
It's really nice that they're able to keep themselves in the game for a whole lot longer this time. I want to point out Chim's getting pretty strong as well with 7 stacks on his Dark Seal. Up here is potentially about to kill Alorum. Has backer from Josie as well, and with the Rift Herald in their pocket, this could turn into a whole lot more.
See how long Chim decides to spend here, though, and there it is. It won't be too long.
Alorum knows now, does end up burning the Disdain for space, though, and gets away pretty scot-free. So, with Josie showing topside, it's not just the Dragon, but basically the entire bot side that should go to Griffin now, and you're hoping to God that you can make this worth it.
Still, plates are up for another 2.5 minutes as well, so that's a lot of extra gold that Zeus is getting to kind of make up for the pressure that randos have been finding on the top side of the map here. But, you know, a potentially worthwhile sacrifice. Yeah, you got a lot of pressure, but if they can use that Shelly early enough to get responding pressure with the plates as well, you know, it's an even trade that works out.
Josie's come down to the bot side to, I suspect, contest the Dragon. Now that they have all those engaged tools back up, the Moonfall, of course, crucial for starting off any fight. They clear away a little bit of vision that's in their own jungle, as Short Hop tries to clear some of the wave, but is getting shoved in, and Griffin is going to start up that Dragon. They've got pressure in both lanes.
They got a lot of damage too. Zeus is just melting this Dragon. No opportunity for randos to even make an appearance there. And like you mentioned, Dia, the control that was forced through on the bottom side from Zeus meant that there really wasn't the ability for retaliation from randos. The pressure in the top side is nice, but no plates went down. The gold and that big advantage in the early part before minute 14 when plates drop has entirely gone over to Zeus.
And with just that 1,000 gold lead staying intact, it's really not the worst thing in the world for AOE randoms. They still definitely have a fighting chance at really any point in the game, at any skirmish that might come up. But with the fact that they've been so heavily pressured this time, I don't think Zoos are interested in giving them inches or a mile. Rhino's doing a really nice job protecting the tower. They're going to have to absorb a Rift Herald as well, but the squad is in position for a fight should they want to.
Rift Herald coming out, gives them a little bit, and there's that plate gold that's going to help a decent amount here. I do love how the rotations are still coming through. We're at 13.5 minutes in, but the game hasn't progressed as quickly as we saw in that last game. Obviously, at this point, we had people pushing in through the mid lane here, but now this game is so much more even, and the advantages are much more split. You can feel the respect as well coming from Zeus, much more so than in that last game. And, I mean, the gold differential is so slim. The ping's coming out now as this mid lane is going to be the next point of contention. And I do like that adjustment as well, kind of swaying now towards the focus on the mid lane, recognizing, hey, we can potentially get a lot of pressure here. Let's move our eyes towards that for game number 2.
You literally mentioned gold differential and mid in the same sentence, and I can't help but expand that, because if we look at the gold lead right now, Tuesday is the one with a lot of gold in his pocket. He's not initiated on. He's able to spot the damage well. Does lay down the equalizer. We're going to see that gold lead come into full effect. Josie gets pulled back in, though, and a fear from Alorum is going to change the fight. It is a huge engage from Alorum there that turns everything, and now Chim has to make up for it. Gets exhausted, still goes back in there, and even through his shroud is going to be taken down. AOE Randoms, they pick a fight above their weight class.
Was a bit tough, and to continue the initiation there, they're going to do it, actually.
Oh, Pocus looks like he's going to go down for that kill. So still ever so slightly in the favor of Zeus Gaming, but they're able to claw this back from being a disastrous play, are the randoms.
Absolutely, especially maintaining this tower. Yes, there's going to be pressure. Yes, it's eventually going to go down here, but you have got such good response there from AOE Gaming and saying, all right, this is something that we need to work to defend. Alorum sacrificing himself for another kill there, and then maybe Zeus staying just a little bit too long and losing out on Tuesday. So, you know, every little victory that you can find, every little victory that AOE Randoms is taking here, it is much bigger in the build-up than the big ones, you know, that seemingly Zeus has managed to navigate around. So I love the exploration of the map as well. Like I was saying, just the way that everyone has been splitting, they have been trying to focus on getting proactive play, forcing reactive play out of the enemy. But neither team has really found that advantage yet because everyone's reacting so quickly.
Yeah, this is definitely the top tier of gameplay that we managed to see so far. And okay, as I say, top tier of gameplay, Josie just burns this on. It's caster curse all over the place. I know that feeling too, where you're like, I didn't mean. It's a ward.
Initiation coming through there. Tuesday taking a lot.
Yeah, Josie actually goes and commits for this with the Moonfall here. Needs to find the kill, but he doesn't. And Tuesday, well, he gets away scot-free. Leo's trying to clean this up now, but Pocus isn't going to be able to find any sort of engage right now. And with the Glacial Fissure having come down, Alorum actually puts Randoms in a really tight spot.
A great Glacial Fissure preventing Leo from engaging, and it's going to continue.
Yeah, Alorum does get initiated on here, but has so much health on this Urgot. Manages to get away for now. Leo going down to Chim, teleports in as well to try and pick up one, does end up finding the support, but falls himself to Rhino of all people as a big slow lands from Alorum across the map, and we see why they prioritize this Urgot.
It gets in range, so much damage. Diana now the last member, so it was not quite an ace, but it is going to be a lot of pressure coming in from Zeus, and this is kind of the point in the game where if you get one of those big successful fights, you can get a lot of pressure. You can get a tower or two, an objective or two, or at least have priority on that objective, and that's when things start to sway. So we need to see AOE approach these a little bit more carefully. They're being very, very aggressive considering how much disengage and re-engage is available on the side of Zeus.
It's absolutely disgusting there. We saw it, I think, the best with that Glacial Fissure that came down because Rhino was able to stall out such a strong push into the bot side, and with no hard engage that could follow up through a Braum, the turn of the fight looked textbook for Zeus Gaming, and it's changed the game for AoE Randoms as well. That 1,000 gold lead that we talked about 3 minutes ago has exploded to a 5,000 gold lead in favor of Zeus.
Certainly not where you want to be as the clock ticks closer to 20 minutes, as you get closer to another big priority objective being that Baron, and especially with Shelly having been picked up. I mean, I guess you had to split Shelly and Kelly across the wave, but Tuesday's going to be engaged on. Let's see how Chim does.
It's always awkward because Chim, remember, was built to kill people like Tuesday. That whenever I'm an AD carry in a side lane, no matter what lane I'm playing the entire game, I have to remember Rengar, Akali, Diana, LeBlanc, they are made to eliminate me.
Yep. So to see that come through, to have Chim have to disengage and then have somebody step in to actually take out Tuesday, all thanks to the culling doing so much damage, doesn't feel great. And it kind of reinforces, you know, where our concern was with this Akali pick. This was really the big one where we loved the composition. And I think you and I both, Dia, when we saw that one locked in, we're like, all right, you know, I can see where you're going, but I don't know if it's going to be as effective for this composition as you guys might really hope if it ends up falling behind.
Exactly, and with not being able to offer too much more other than damage, Chim really does have to be almost an AD carry in a way with the consistency of the DPS that they can put out in the fight. Has to rely on that Shroud. It has to rely in a little bit of a way on Zeus Gaming being disjointed, being panicked. With 2 AD carries, they can never stop worrying about Akali. But Chim needs to be the one that is also consistently outplaying people like Raheen and Tuesday, storied players in NA Amateur that have seen their fair share of assassins and cut down their fair share as well.
I mean, looking also just at the board, looking at not creep. Oh, there might be an initiation here. Josie's gonna have to walk off that concussive blows. Just walk it off, Josie. It'll go away. But you know, a lot of potential there. 3 bounties on the side here for Zeus. They want to find another engage. The equalizer's going to come out, but that's just going to be more pressure and exactly what Zeus wants because they're trying to get on this Baron as quickly as possible. They just picked up Kelly. I like to call her Kelly, the second Rift Herald, Shelly's sister. So focusing immediately on that. But man, you've got such a solid split in damage too, and the initiation comes through with some of the items as well. While you might not have, as much initiation as Ornn on the Urgot, well, you've got the Stride Breaker to get a little bit more, to get a little bit closer in there. You've got the Rocket Belts. You've got the Gale Force. There's so much additional engaged initiation on the side of Zeus that needs to be watched out for by AOE randos because they do, they've got a Gale Force, they've got the Rocket Belt, but not quite as much. And with Leo having jumped in on a few of these fights in a dangerous manner, it's just trepidation, I think, is kind of the name of the game here.
Really is. You gotta test the waters before you fully commit to anything. And Short Hop's done much the same thing, picking up the Gale Force for himself. We saw it used in the mid lane just a few seconds ago with an initiation from long range on that equalizer. Gale Force is something that is helping keep Short Hop in this game, but isn't really contributing to his ability nearly so much to burn people down, because Jin's picked up a few kills, but we haven't seen Short Hop carry the fight like I expect AOE randoms need him to do.
And jungle has been pretty difficult too. I'm gonna say, as great as Josie is on this champion, the attempts on Alorum, who constantly was just able to escape, I think there were like 2 or 3 probably in the laning phase on top of it. So not just wasted time really, but ends up just being a slap to the face on top of it, because it's like, well, man, I am trying to help you out here, but there's literally nothing that I can do. So that recovery is tough, but the longer the game goes on, the better off this Diana is going to be and is going to feel, having a little more items, but still, I mean, just a little bit farther behind than you would hope to be as AOE. The level differentials are the big one. You've got across the board that level up for all of Zeus, and that's going to come into play on these fights.
That's a hard clench right there. Josie has to burn the Proto Belt to dodge some of the culling as well, teleporting into the bot side. This is a play for the Dragon, plain and simple, and I suspect Zeus are going to get it. They're looking for more, though, as Griffin goes in front line, tries to cut off Pocus from the rest of the team, found what they looked for, forced the flash from Pocus, and now they get to disengage on a curtain call that could not be bothering them less.
Right into the dragon. Third dragon of the game, soul point for them. And this team is burning down these objectives so dang quickly. That's what you get as well when you have a rumble, is just melting these things, no pun intended. And we can see it with all of these objectives. So that's the other side of it too. If you want to try to counter-engage, you really don't have the ability to counter-engage these objectives. If Zeus has priority, you have to have a fight beforehand, and you have to take control ahead of time for AoE.
And at 23 minutes in, we do have those 3 objectives that you mentioned. The dragons all lined up in a row for Zeus Gaming. All 3 the outer towers belonging to them as well, so they really do run the map right now. And as they drop Kelly in the mid lane, looks like they're going to get even the start of a tier 2 in that mid lane.
And that was something that was successful for them last game. We saw multiple charges coming off of Kelly in particular at the end there. Oh my goodness, the flash forced away, but saved himself from that last shot of the concussive blows. And another charge from Kelly.
Focus, though, does land a hook, tries to start a fight, but the equalizer decimates a Leo, while Josie goes in front line, gets the moonfall onto 3 members. There's no damage to follow it up, and AOE have to disengage with Chim on the side to try and flank Zeus. There's nobody to draw attention away from him, and this Akali is going to have to wait for another day.
So quickly are the members of AoE burned down, and these are the damage-dealing members. That's the problem. We just saw the forced flash away there from Short Hop, and at that point, you can't re-engage on these fights, and you don't have the damage necessary. So Alorum is just kind of able to roam free and say, yeah, I'll tank it, but I can also deal damage, and I can also allow the rest of my team to continue this long-range poke that we have, this long-range advantage.
Leo manages to keep himself alive for now as well, and in some sort of weird play, AoE randoms do have a little bit of priority over this Baron. You can see them placing down a little bit of vision to see if Zeus start it up, but they're not going to actually be able to take this map pressure and turn it into anything tangible, turn it into gold, turn it into objectives. They've still got to wait for a team fight to actually go their way before they feel safe engaging on them.
And all of their words right there revealed by that little vision cone. So they will have this scuttle. That is a nice little bit of consolation again for this team having the vision in the right place. So good focus on making sure to catch that out, because 2 of those 3 wards that were placed around Baron have already been taken back down. And the gold pressure is just going to continue mounting here for Zeus if we don't get a little bit of recourse from AoE. They need to initiate one of these fights. That's what we need to see, because the problem here is that the fights occur split, and AoE just takes too much damage on the backside. They have to disengage.
Shim right now taking a lot of damage as well. Worm's actually winning this really hard and might be able to solo kill him here. It's going to be a tall order for the engage to finish off the kill. Well, the engage finally happens in the mid lane. The equalizer goes down. The Zanyas comes out from Marine. Pocus is going to be burned through, and 2 different attempts from AoE randoms to find something in their favor are just going to get them killed. Leo tries to find an assassination, but he himself goes down again. And now that curtain call finally going to clean up some kills. Josie looks for one, but gives it over to Short Hop. Well, Alorim comes in to play the hero, takes down one, looks for another. It's the 1v1 here. Gets popped for Alorim, while Short Hop has to walk away, tail between his legs, back to the base.
No ultimate available. So that was that fight. So many members of AoE going down, and Alorim wasn't even a part of it. Ended up running back through because he didn't have the teleport available. And oh my goodness, these split fights that are initiated and really proactively performed by Zeus is forcing AoE to constantly have to recall, just taking too much damage, not even being able to really place themselves on the map in these fights. So while this is still a much closer game than the last one, obviously we're even several minutes beyond that, again, that gold lead is going to continue to mount unless AoE randos can find these small victories that they have done in the past that mount up to the equivalent of the pressure that a team like Zeus is able to put out. Right now, though, I mean, I want to see more cohesion, honestly. That's the biggest thing. I love the attempts at the splits, but when you get so far behind that you're looking at, like a 7k differential in the enemy team's favor, you need to group and you need to be proactive about fights.
And they need Shim there to do it as well, because the Akali was something that we had mentioned as being a consistent source of damage, something that you need to look to sort of a la 80 carry in melee range to finish off kills, to actually put down pressure. And Shim hasn't been present for the past 2 fights, whether it is that he's been dead or pushing a side lane. Especially when you're at a disadvantage like this, you need every last bit of damage that you can get, and Akali is such a large part of that. Right now, AoE randoms, they're trying to roll the dice again, setting up a little bit of vision around Baron, trying to trade for the Dragon, but instead, Dragon Soul goes over as an afterthought to Zeus Gaming, and now they can pressure as much as they like.
Look at the speed. They already have so much speed as a team. They have so much forward momentum. They're going to engage.
Yeah, Raheem's just going to go for this there. Pulls the trigger on the Killer Instinct, and that Moonfall is not going to save you, Josie. Gets taken down in his own jungle as the equalizer from Griffin cuts everybody off, and they get to turn back onto the Baron. Zeus Gaming.
I have to point out, too, Rhino's use in these team fights, and in particular the one that just occurred, a little bit ago, where there were a lot of deaths in this river here. The navigating around and literally just pop concussive blows, walk around to somebody else, pop concussive blows, like very, very much going in, taking damage and aggression, but also recognizing, okay, this is the next target, and the rest of the team immediately follows up, has the range, as you mentioned earlier, Dia, to get those concussive blow stacks on really quickly. Now they've got the mobility too from this Dragon Soul, and things are just not, they're looking bleaker and bleaker for AoE randos.
They really are, especially as they lose their last tier 2 of the game. Inhibitor Tower shortly to be under fire as the hook not going to land onto Griffin as he ends up going gold and still does get rooted though and knocked up, forcing an equalizer. Do AOE randoms manage to keep themselves alive here? But a knock up under the tower almost spells the end of Short Hop, and Chim has to burn the shroud to stay alive on the side as well. Shuriken Flip gets him over the wall, but that Inhibitor Tower is not long for the world, and neither is Chim. It looks like going golden here. There's just 3 members waiting for him. He's gonna get chomped up for breakfast as the wood chipper tears its way through him, tears its way through the rest of AOE randoms. They might just lose the game right now, but a pick could have solved their problems. Josie goes in, gets another 4-man moonfall, but it just isn't enough at this point in the game. With over a 10,000 gold lead, Zeus Gaming, they take down that last Nexus tower, they take down the Nexus, and they take game 2.
Game number 2, match point now for Zeus Gaming. I gotta say, man, Alorum, Urgot, that can't happen.
No, you do not give this over to Alorum. That is something that I will write on my tombstone just so that people know it when they stop by going, oh my god, I forgot the lesson, because very clearly AOE randoms forgot the lesson and it cost them dearly.
It certainly did. They have, I mean, hopefully they learned from these lessons. It did look much better in this game number 2 compared to number 1. The final thing that I need to see just get a little bit more cleaned up in terms of the composition pick, because it did feel much better here for the draft, is the damage security. You can't have these champions where you need to get a little bit ahead, or you need a few items to actually have the damage, because Zeus is going in knowing that even if they fall behind, they have that. So AOE, pick something like that up, add 1 or 2 of those champions with that damage security, and I see a much closer game, potentially a game 4 or 5.
Absolutely, and AOE already showed a understanding of where they needed to improve coming off of game 1. I can only hope that game 2 holds the same thing, because like you say, it is quite clear what they need, but the question is whether they can execute on it, because now they need to be perfect. 1 game goes to Zeus, and AOE are out of the semifinals. Things could not be more tense for this team, but I'm going to take a quick break before we go into that 3rd game to send it to our analysts after we come back.
Welcome back to AOE Esports. My name is Kari Wave, and I am joined by DJ and Hawk. Gentlemen, I don't even really want to meme it. I feel bad. How do we feel about that last game?
Yeah, it's a tricky one, Kari. It's a much better fight back here from AoE randoms, right? You can see the effort there. The draft goes much better. They have some very good results, but it just again, it's sort of something that I used to say, when I was having a competitive career in soccer. You get into a game sometimes, you're up against opposition, you just feel like a little bit of big brother, right? They're just kind of holding you at arm's length. And that's what it kind of feels like here for Zeus. At one point, 17-12 in kill score, 1.5k gold lead at like 18 minutes. That's not that much. You're very close. You're very much in that game from AoE randoms, but then they just kind of turn on the afterburners. They find the picks they need. They take you out in a couple team fights. They pick up the Baron, and the game is just over like that because they know how to close it out. It's just a little bit of big brother coming in here from a team that's been there, done that, and knows how to get it done.
I agree with that. I think that we are looking at a team that AoE randoms could aspire to be, could learn from in scrims in particular, but it's starting to feel really difficult, the path to recovery for AoE randoms, even though that last game was seemingly closer than the one preceding it. It feels a little bit discouraging, a little bit hopeless, but we are seeing some small spots of light, some adjustments. They are doing a good job of pivoting to Zoo's compositions in a specific way, but Hawk, what are we looking at in terms of recovery for AoE? What's the edge? How do they recover from this particular loss?
It's a tough question to answer, Kari, because I feel like we talked about this a lot during the draft while the casters were going about how we felt like in game number 1, and D actually said it on stream, you're allowed to experiment. You're allowed to try something new and see if it goes well, because in a best of 5 series, potentially goes 5 games, and even 3 games in a row, if you're winning all of them, of playing the exact same thing could be extremely difficult and mentally taxing. So to mix it up, to try something new, keep yourself on your toes, throw off the opposition, can go well. They got destroyed. So in game number 2, back to basics. We saw the Diana come out. DJ showed off his dice roll. Wasn't the Udyr, unfortunately, like he rolled, but still one of the 3 champions on it. We got the Nautilus to roam around for Pakis. We got a traditional lady carry for short hop. All these things that we said we wanted to see in draft. And then they still lost. And it's even more disheartening because, just like DJ just said, they were close in this game, and then they overdove on the bottom side of the map, and the game was just lost from that point on at about 20 minutes. And so in terms of recovery, I feel like it's a hard thing to pin down because AoE this time around got what they wanted and they weren't able to make it happen. And I think it comes down to go all out with an early game strategy, because so far we've seen Rumble taken twice for Griffin, and he has smurfed on the pick. He has destroyed AoE on this pick, and it's because it does more in the early game than Diana does, and it does more in the early game than Lilia does pre-6. Even though Rumble's an ultimate reliant champion, it's just Rumble does so much damage, right? And we've also seen the Urgot for Alorum, both sides of the Tristana Lucian matchup going the way of Tuesday in the mid lane. So if you're AoE, I think you don't try to play for team fights. You don't try to play this reactive style that we have seen them play. We've seen them play aggressive champions, and I want to just watch them go to comfort and try to make plays early, deny the comfort from Zeus, and try to just throw them off their game. Because at this point, we understand that AoE's game plan has not worked.
Yeah, I think I have to agree with Hawk here. When you do get into sort of these back against the wall situations, it's time to throw caution to the wind, right? Get on comfort champions, get in the faces of your opposition and try to throw them off, regardless of how you do that. I like the fact that they got Josie back on something that he's played a little bit more and is a little more comfortable on. I think the place that I'll be looking for now, is that mid lane. Tuesday, it's going to be hard, of course. Tuesday has been gapping people all tournament. That's just the way it's been, whether it's been on Orianna, whether it's been on Lucian, Tristana. The man has just been absolutely insane throughout. But, you can turn that around a little bit. I think if you do give Leo something that he's a little more comfortable on. They've been banning his Nocturne and his Renekton away all series long here. If you can get him on the Jace, If you can get him on something that he does have a little more familiarity, maybe the laning phase goes a little bit better and you have a chance to skirmish around these early objectives. We saw Short Hop perform pretty well again on that Jhin in game number 2, 4-1 and 10. Good CS. If you can get him on a late game scaler, something like an Ezreal now as sort of a backup condition, and get your other 4 members on a heavy roam and skirmish squad, you could get into the face of Zeus, but it still could be tricky, particularly if you leave Urgot's, Lorem's Urgot up again.
Yeah, completely agree with that. I think that the key here for AoE is going to be the ones who are setting the tone. They are the ones who need to create the problems. They're the ones who need to be able to be team fighting on their own terms. And also, I think more than anything, as far as team fights go, out-rotation should probably be the name of the game instead of head-on fighting for AoE. It's obvious that they have more seasoned veterans on Zeus, and the team fight tactics, those come with time and practice and being able to do that sort of thing on stage over and over, something that AoE randoms don't necessarily have. So focus on that macro, focus on out rotations, and make yourself the problem and the leader of the game, as opposed to letting Zeus constantly dictate what's happening on the map. So, gentlemen, how do we feel going into this one? Are we still hopeful? Is there no hope left? What does it look like?
For me, we are gathered here today to mourn the loss of my hope, unfortunately, because yeah, it was tough watching that last game because I want to give AoE a lot of credit because they did put up a fight in that last game. They got a lot of kills. They tried to make plays. They tried to get dragons, right? It just didn't happen the way that they wanted to, and sometimes that's just a part of League of Legends, and I don't think that they have what it takes because, as Kari just said, you can try to out-rotate Zeus, but they have that experience. They have this experienced macro shot calling to just out-macro you. Then what are you going to do? Head on team fight them? Well, it's tough when Tuesday is a god. Like, what do you do against that? It's so hard. So I honestly, I'm not feeling good about my 3-1 prediction, but I would be delighted to see AoE prove me wrong and give us a series.
I agree with that one. I think we are going to go to the casters now for our third, maybe final game. We will see. Let's hope not. But you're in good hands now. Take it away, Jolly, Dia, both of you.
Thank you, Kari. As we arrive right back here on the caster desk, our analysts have actually set us up really, really well. I feel exactly what Hawk was talking about, that slow loss of hope in what seems like a no-win situation, a Kobayashi Maru, perhaps, Jolly, for AoE here, and they do have to stay calm in the face of what looks really terrifying. Zeus have given us an incredible amount of adaptability, an incredible amount of carry potential from multiple lanes, but I want to see AoE answer back with something that only they can do.
Something that only they can do, and something that is going to be effective into this high damage initiation style that Zeus plays. And again, I mean, I said it before, excuse me, at the end of the game, the thing that I really want to see is really solid damage. Even if not damage that is dependent on it, if you have a good early game or if you get an early kill or something, but damage that can be a fallback that we really haven't seen AoE randoms bring into these games so far today.
Yeah, I want to see what they end up going with, and I want to see if Zeus change anything up, because it should be noted that the sides haven't actually swapped this series. AoE once again find themselves on the red side, and Zeus on the blue here. If we were following what has been happening, that first ban should be a Nocturne, but we got to make sure.
Mine's just a blue square. So I'm going to rely on you for that, I guess. I'll try to refresh this page. But yeah, I've got just nice colors instead of champions. That is okay. That's all right. I'll be just as surprised as the viewers here. Oh, no, I see a set. All right, so... Okay.
All right, we are making a new draft. That's what's happening.
Yep, that's why.
It's not that the Nocturne wasn't going to be banned. It's that they forgot to ban. Which is, you know what? The highest level of League of Legends leaves only this.
Well, hopefully, as we can see, yeah, it is going to be reset here, I think. I mean, they're having some issues, so we are going to get it reset here.
There we go.
I mean, right off the bat, we did have, I mean, you saw the Ezreal in the set, at least, for the bans that did come through.
And set is something that has been made every game from AoE. We're expecting it, if things continue this way, to be set, Gwen, Varus for them, and Nocturne, Ezreal, Renekton for Zeus. And honestly, Zeus don't need to change anything. It's really the randoms that need to shake things up. Definitely keep the Gwen ban, but everything else, I think you can shift around.
Agree, actually. I think that the bans being the same, I mean, at least the first round of bans being the same for both of these games means that we're far enough in, especially for AoE randoms here, that there have to be a couple of respect bans. I think the Urgot could be a big one, that, or, just bringing something else into that Urgot, but the expectation of that being a very high priority for Alorum, and Alorum being so impactful in these games, early and late game, that might be one that would be a good ban. I'm not going to shame them for not doing it, because it is kind of unfortunate to have to do something like that.
Yeah.
They're going to go with the
Holy
Rumble, though.
moly.
And I like that. Throw something off that Zeus has already been successful with. And absolutely, are you kidding me? Griffin on that Rumble was disgusting. So no longer will Zeus have that as a first pick.
Are you giving Alorum the Gwen, though? No, they're not. What is occurring? In what world is Udyr a higher priority? In the Zeus gaming world, that's certainly the case here, as now AoE randoms, they have the chance to take that away for themselves. It's been such a high priority in professional play all around the world, and it should be first picked here.
Yes, I mean, for first priority for Udyr, it is Zeus, because Griffin loves the Udyr. I think the actually success rate on Udyr is one of the lower ones. If I'm not mistaken, we kind of covered those stats, but I'm not remembering if I'm recalling it correctly. So, yeah, the Gwen can be picked up, but there's so much confidence going in with the Udyr here. And the Diana is actually going to be the cover, or the hover already. Lots of flexibility, which you guys know I appreciate coming from AoE randoms.
Yeah, the Diana is actually really nice here, because it also gets you a nice jungle pick. They're going to end up swapping to that Lilia, though, going for this sort of very rightfully named AoE teamfight composition that is going to rely a lot on these consistent magic damage dealers. And that's assuming that, of course, they want to teamfight. Lilia and Gwen can, of course, run side lanes as well. So we'll see what they end up going with right now in terms of compositionally. But the fact that they lock in the Lilia there does mean that they're going to give over to Zeus the Kai'Sa first, but I'm surprised it wasn't the Nautilus first.
Yeah, I mean, the Naut should be the lock in here now. That would be the appropriate pickup, unless they want to I mean, yep, there it is. Okay, I was gonna say the Lilia, I get it, I get wanting to pick that one, but with the Udyr already locked in, they could have taken the Nautilus, they could have prioritized something else and then picked up the Lilia a little bit later on, because I'm not sure if Zeus would have actually gone through with banning it, or even on this secondary pick. But Nautilus should be such high priority that I'm really surprised that randoms went with the Lilia over the Nautilus and gave it once again over to Rhino, who has just been a monster.
I went and got something for you, Jolly. Right now, as of these specific playoffs in this specific tournament, we do have Griffin in a 100% win rate on Udyr. He's only played it twice, but he's 100% is 100%.
I knew it was one of the two. I knew it was one of those two. That's why I was like, oh, it's either 100% of the two games, or it was the lower win rate. Either way, generally in those overall, for the three champions that have been played almost entirely here by Griffin, overall it is a very successful win rate in terms of those guys. So locking in the Udyr is not just great meta right now, but also a really good pick for the style that Zeus has been playing. And again, another comfort pick that they know, all right, I can just play this as best I can, and hopefully that will be enough to topple over AoE randoms, especially with the early initiation that we like to see from Zeus jungle.
We certainly do, and I'm curious especially about this Nico ban last from AoE randoms. The last time we saw this picked up for Zeus, I believe it was into a Kindred Lulu compositions, and it was a split pusher for Alorum in the top side. But interestingly enough, they haven't chosen to ban away the Urgot that we thought was so impactful last game. Could it be that they're going to try and counter pick something? This is such a weird ban. I think
the lack of the Oh my goodness, we were just the Urgot. I was, wow, all right, I'm actually kind of surprised. I was gonna say the lack of the Urgot maybe is because Udyr Nautilus already offers so much of that front line and that tankiness. You do have a lot of damage from Urgot, but I'm kind of surprised that they locked it in instead of going for someone with a little bit more range and a little bit higher damage. It is going to be the Orianna as well, though, for Tuesday, who we all know easily has the ability to carry. So, you know, at least you have this idea from Zeus that they're going back to comfort picks. They are respecting AOE Random's ability in this game number 3.
Yeah, Tuesday on the Orianna, I really like. It's a high comfort champion for him. On the other side of this, a Jace gets locked in, of all things. And AOE Randoms, if you ask me, and I'm asking you, but I'm not a fan of the Jace. They did kind of just shoot themselves in the foot. Why did they pick the Jace, Jolly?
You know, that's a good question. I mean, you've got going into I can see maybe that was their kind of plan of you know, Jace into the Urgot. Yeah, you've got like the range on him, but the problem is that Urgot is tanky enough early on, and Urgot is going to be able to deal enough damage. Having the flip as a Jace, the only out you've got is using your ulti, doing the you know, the transposition there, and having a slight boost. So if you get flipped by the Urgot, it's not, I mean, at all a win condition here for randoms. I'm kind of in the same boat as you. I'm not sure what the reason behind that is, but once again, we're looking at kind of the same situation as the first game. There's not a ton of front line. So when Zeus decides to initiate with a Nautilus, an Urgot, an Udyr, randoms don't have much chance of survival.
No, they really don't. And on the other side, randoms, of course, only have Pocus for the initiate on this Alistar. Barring some sort of incredible form and sleep from Josie, it gets really difficult to actually start fights to find picks, because you've got to run at Zeus Gaming with your face, and if they have time to set things up, if they get an Orianna ball onto anyone in the front line, AOE Randoms can quickly have their team fight turned on their head. The one person that can survive a lot of these champions, though, is going to be short hop on that Xayah, and it needs to be the game becoming about the bot lane if AOE Randoms want to give time for their Gwen to scale, and realistically for a short hop to even be relevant to this game.
And I do like the Xayah. I mean, I mentioned before, I'm an ADC main as of late. I love the fact that in a lot of these team fights, not even with the Feather Storm, you can lay feathers, and it's very difficult as a player to have to try to navigate yourself through the fight and also avoid being within the range or the placement of Blade Caller here. I love the Xayah. I would have preferred them to have the Nautilus here again over even, you know, that Lilia. I do like the Alistar, but the initiation and the disengage that's available from Nautilus is just, it's absolutely massive right now with how much pressure we have been getting for ganking towards that bottom side. So I'm really concerned. Dia. I mean,
okay.
This is game number 3. This is match point, and I don't like this. I was really hoping to like this draft better than the last game, and I don't.
Yeah, it's got to be the god of comfort for AOE Randoms should they be putting their best foot forward to try and take themselves off match point, because right now the composition that we have on the other side of this is very, very standard. They've played comps like this 100 times and are more than comfortable dancing around with this, where on the other side, AOE Randoms, even if they had practiced everything else 100 times, they've still got a Gwen that brings a whole nother dimension to your team fights. Like you say, are lacking a frontline, making it even more complicated, and it really needs to come down to individual outlaning. Leo and Chim need to be the members of this team that are finding, I dare say, solo kills if they want to come into this mid-game at least even.
Especially locking something like the Jace there into the Orianna. I mean, so much aggression, but same exact thing that we saw in the last games. If you don't get an early lead, you don't have a fallback on damage. Jace will absolutely fall off and be a very, very easy target for all of Zeus if there's not that early pressure and those early kills. So my big expectation too is not just to see, you know, Leo trying to get those single kills, but also Josie showing up really early in the mid lane to help get that pressure. You have a lot more sustainability from the Xayah and the Alistar in that bottom, but if Leo falls behind on this Jace, I mean, there's nothing that can be done. It's like a 4v5 essentially at that point.
Yeah, AOE fans everywhere around the globe are sweating in anticipation for this game, I'm sure, Jolly. And I'll ask all of you to put your hands together for me and offer a small, simple prayer for this roster as they head into the game that could potentially push them out of Challengers Uprising. They've got to win this one. Let's see if they can after a short break. Well, thank God we are back at Jolly with Game 3 of AOE Randoms versus game. For you new arrivals, AOE Randoms find themselves, well, one game away from being pushed out of Challengers Uprising. Zeus Gaming have themselves on match point, and we've got a few other technical things to cover as well. Of course, Jolly, Karasuno Setter in the bot lane we'll be referring to as Short Hop, and Way will be Gordon.
I think it's. Oh yeah, no, you said it right. Way. Oh, it is. It's two words. I didn't actually notice that it is way. Two separate ones. Yes, Griffin for that one. Who has been playing Rumble so far in the first two games, very successful, and now is on. I mean, just as big of a comfort pick. 3 champions being played so far this season. Only 2 of them on that Udyr, and we covered it a little bit earlier. 100% win rate so far for Challengers Uprising. But we haven't seen it yet today. And AOE, D, I think we can agree that we don't really know what AOE's plan is here, but we hope that they have one.
Yeah, normally I look at drafts and games and I go, I don't I don't pretend to know what's happening. I'm not a professional player, but I can always try and postulate. And here, I think that the postulation is best left up to what actually happens in the game, because it is so hard to predict what it is that AOE randoms really drafted as their win condition, as their strong point. As we said in the draft, it really does seem like a win lane, win game comp.
For sure, but the problem is we haven't yet seen them so far in the 2 games today win lane at all here in the mid. Really, I mean, there has been success though. Leo has been playing very consistently and very, very well, and especially in that Tristana Lucian matchup. I mean, very, very well played here. But you know, the concern is honestly this pick, and if it falls off, it will fall off incredibly hard.
So it certainly will, and remember that they've already got problems they haven't addressed in the previous 2 games. That bot lane hover from the Observer right there just points to a single one of them, because Rhino and Raheen have been consistently running the bot lane, and they get to do so once again for free in this 3rd game. Well, Josie cannot be helping AOE randoms. He's gone all the way to topside after going for a full clear, and Lilia is not going to have an impact on this game for a while.
That's probably one of the biggest things that I'm most disappointed about in this draft is just the fact that once again Rhino got the Nautilus. You know, the Apophis did a great job last game running the Nautilus. Rhino was forced on the Braum. Yes, did a really good job, but there was a lot of, you know, solid push, and there was some priority in the lane for AOE in the bottom. But with this matchup, there isn't, and there was the opportunity to get the Nautilus, who now is roaming mid.
Yeah, Rhino gets to completely change the game now. Even the Ignite going down almost takes down Leo and will certainly force a reset. With the wave pushing towards Tuesday, it is as bad as it can get, because if we look bot lane, Raheen hasn't even lost anything. He got a cheater recall in while this was going on, and the control of that bot lane wave is masterful from Zeus.
Picked up a long sword there, and we can see has the refillable potion as well, which is one of my favorite investments in the game as an ADC, to be honest. Being able to get those 2 refilled every time you recall, and the hope is that you recall a lot and buy a bunch of items. But you know what? We're already 4 minutes in. We don't have any kills. Last game, the kill count was absurd. Game number 1, the kill count was very low. So we're going to see how this turns out as an initiation occurs.
Yeah, Raheen got in a little bit of trouble in the bot lane, was able to trade back some damage, but it's certainly a winning trade for AOE randoms, and they had Josie in their back pocket as well down here to back them up should anything have gone awry. So the positioning of this Lilia at the very least is providing a little bit of insurance to both the mid lane and the bot lane. He goes for the reset and has to once again venture out onto the map.
Really liked Josie's Lilia in the first game. It was not poorly played whatsoever. The game itself went really heavily and very quickly in favor of Zeus, so Josie wasn't really able to do as much as was necessary to gain control of that one, but some amazing lilting lullabies, some really solid damage, and some great positioning from Josie. So this is certainly not a disappointing pick for me. I like Josie on the Lilia. It's just, you know, again, the composition and the way that it kind of works all together means that they are going to have to find success soon.
Absolutely, and we're looking especially around the solo lanes right now. I know the spectator camera has been focused a lot in that bot lane where we've been getting the heavy trading, but Alorum and Chim, this matchup up here, is already something that is going to change the game should it go one way or the other, because Gwen, as you all know if you've been watching professional League of Legends, is insanely busted right now, and Alorum's Urgot needs to be nerfed as well.
It certainly does. You can see 45, 23. So much pressure here. Oh no, Josie!
Yep, Rhino's going to go down there, and it's good flash to secure that kill. Now, leaving Pocus all alone with a little bit of a late roam up, is going to find a double knock-up, gets the Aftershock, and might even get out alive, as the hook isn't going to connect onto him or Chim. But the proactivity of Zeus Gaming is what gets them that first blood, what gets them a little bit further ahead.
See if they can maintain it, though, because I like the proactivity that, you know, is that the response, it is somewhat reactive, but it's reactive in a way to be proactive as the exhaust comes out here on Raheen.
Yeah, is this short hop taken? The 1v1 right here doesn't have the feather pullback just yet, so Raheen is just going to take a little bit of damage, and it's a summoner spell down for short hop, crucially.
Exhaust, yeah, the flash still available, but the heal is still there for Raheen, and Raheen is totally fine with continuing to try to keep pressure on this lane while Rhino navigates all around the map. And speaking of pressure, it is in possession here around this dragon currently for AOE. They're going to try to get a little bit more in a potential initiation here from Josie. If they can get a push or get a kill here on either the mid lane or the bottom lane, they can have the advantage for this dragon and finally start this game in their favor.
Ooh, Tuesday, though, goes for the shockwave, and a good bump back from Leo buys him a little bit of time. That's all it's going to buy him, as he's going to go down under the tower. Mid lane goes down. Mid lane pressure is secured by Zeus Gaming, effectively denying that dragon that was so beautifully set up by the random.
It was, and it was Josie, honestly, I gotta say, it was Josie there trying to figure out where to engage on. A little bit too much pressure coming from Short Hop and Pockus down in the bottom side, and so that meant that Lilia was deciding, all right, maybe I can go up to the mid lane. Didn't get there in time. The pressure was responded to here by Zeus. So you're absolutely right, Dia. That nice opportunity that was there has been taken away, and Leo clearly is going to be the huge target, no matter what, for Zeus to shut down.
Did finally get that flash back up as well. Pocus ending up channeling the Hex Flash in the bot lane. Again, constantly looking for these plays. Rahena's had to play a little bit further back than usual this game, which is, I'm sure, a breath of fresh air for all the randoms. As right now, we're seeing Wyatt's played so far back. Use that Killer Instinct, though, to buy a little bit more space with the teleport into the bot lane, though. It could be still going in Zeus' favor. Pocus can't finish off this kill on his own, but Alorum certainly can. Taking down Short Hop and picking up another kill on the Alistair. Double kill goes over to Alorum, and this game just got so much harder.
Now, Alorum is totally okay with using the flash, the ultimate, and the teleport on that one. 4-0 are the kills. They found themselves at a little bit more than a 2k gold lead and huge dragon priority. And once again, we have to consider that while there's a lot of tankiness and initiation, just look at the damage that is still coming out from the champions that are picked from Zeus. So you gotta hope that AOE randoms can find themselves a little bit of success here, try to staunch the bleeding that has been started so early on from Zeus.
And Chim, for that, did finally get a little bit of time in that top side. The thing that was supposed to make Zeus Gaming bleed. The Ignite Gwen up here has just barely gotten even right now. And Tuesday, he's the one that needs to be taken down. Good hook does respond from Rhino, though. Tuesday, one auto away, is going to fall to Short Hop, almost getting the kill, no less. It's Pocus that ends up picking that up. And as much as it's a good play from AOE randoms, that very same person picking up the kill has to give it to us with a grain of salt.
Has to do so there. And hey, you know what? Put one on the board at least, okay? So there's even a little bit more consolation in terms of it wasn't just a kill. All right, it was removing a goose egg from the screen that was kind of haunting AOE random. So maybe a mental boost on top of it there, but that also means the priority is not just taking place down towards the bottom, also towards the Rift Herald.
Yeah, this is already a steal from Josie around this Rift Herald. Just needs to secure it, and he's running circles around Griffin. Ends up picking up the Rift Herald as well, and a surprising play towards the top side. Gets AOE randoms another kill, another advantage, and their first Rift Herald of the series.
Heck yeah, Josie, what a steal there. That's the kind of play that AOE randoms needs to be confident in making. Find out where they can find these little successes and take advantage of them, because again, you just have to kind of stop the bleeding here that has been, ripped open so brutally by Zeus. Small victories will continue to build up, and AOE randoms is a great team at making those small victories combine into something huge.
They're still at a small goal disadvantage, though, and that's what I'm really worried about, especially with Chim having to push so far forward here. We're thankful that AOE have been able to put down some sort of defensive vision. Let's see if it's enough, though, as Alorum goes for this engage, gets the slow down, although, Chim barely getting out of there alive. Flash forward from Way, though, with the bear slap, might just be enough damage to finish him off, and it's going to be another kill picked up by Zeus.
Blue Smite, very helpful there on Griffin. That's going to give them now about a 3k gold lead and early pressure on the towers. Just the same thing that has happened the last couple of games. And while it's nice to see that Leo has got that one kill, it's still just such a pressured mid lane here that it's got to be continuing forward with trepidation. It's really not what you want to do with the composition here, where you want to just be bursting down a ton of damage. But I love to see successful fights, especially from this underdog team who is facing match point right now.
And they're looking to make another play in mid lane onto Tuesday. We've seen it before. Can they find it this time? The Swirl Seed going wide suggests a no, but the Rift Herald here will mean that at least they still get away with some gold.
That is necessary. Like you said, Dia, this is the first Rift Herald for AOE randoms in this series entirely, and really their first big opportunity to get a lot of plate damage down. The previous games, it has been just Zeus putting so much pressure, taking all of the tier 1 towers relatively early on and getting the majority of plates across the board. But now AOE says, hey, we'll take 2 in the top, we'll take 2 in the mid side, and these small victories will continue to pile on.
And they end up, well, securing themselves a little bit more vision supremacy around bot side as well. And I say it in that tone of voice because it's good. It's a good thing, but it's something that still really does need to pay off in a more tangible way in the future. It's, shall we say, an investment into the success of the randoms in days yet to come.
And hopefully games yet to come. Again, match point here for Zeus. So AOE is just looking to keep themselves in this tournament. A best of 5 with 2 games going pretty heavy-handedly over to Zeus. But the fact that the first game was 23 minutes, second game was 30 minutes, we're already looking so much cleaner from AOE on game number 3. They might have figured something out that we didn't really realize, Dia, because we were pretty concerned with this composition. I liked it less than last game's composition, to be, in fact, and it's going much, much better.
It really is. They've managed to keep themselves more or less even or ahead in most of the lanes. Of course, still falling slightly behind in that bot lane, slightly behind in the mid lane, but this time slightly ahead in the bot lane. That's a big turning point. Well, turning point comes in the top lane, where Alorum finds a solo kill.
Fear beyond death. You can't escape from that. Josie's trying to find some recourse for the team, though.
You think he gets it? I don't think he gets it.
Ooh, so much damage. He did deal a lot, but you can't get too close.
Oh, please! You can't be doing this to AOE randoms. He breaks ankles in the top lane.
They've got families, man. They've got families to go home to after this. You can't do this to another person. I'm pretty sure we're witnessing a little bit of cyberbullying right now from Alorum.
I think so. Is it a reportable offense? I don't know. Somebody contact the tournament organizer here. But the fact is that Alorum right now has 4 kills, and that bullying doesn't seem to be stopping anytime soon.
400 gold bounty. I said that if there's any respect band that needs to come through, it is Alorum's Urgot. And I wasn't just saying it to sound fancy. No, it is necessary. Another engaging bot.
If you can turn this around in the bot lane, you can have yourself a game, but Rhino flashes away, does still get shut down, as Raheen almost gets rooted, but uses the killer instinct to buy himself a little bit more time. Pocus commits under the tower, and Short Hop nearly picks up the kill, invests the flash for it, but Alistar's the one that ends up grabbing it, while Alorum wants to avenge his fallen comrades here, gets that stride breaker, and is gonna machine gun his way through.
A rough breakaway there, because we saw the split upwards, and immediately Tuesday's like, yeah, I can help out here. I can take care of this. I can turn this into a 2-for-1 for our team. So it did end up being an advantage for Zeus. A nice little play, though, from AOE, and it was a shutdown. So you have that going for you. You have the killer instinct that is down. One of the longer cooldowns for ultimates on the side there of Zeus, but another engage.
Leo, you're so silly. He just dumps a bunch of damage into the 2 tanky members, and of course it was always gonna go this way, because now Tuesday has arrived. He gets not only a blue buff, but a kill as well, and Shim is nowhere near ready to turn this one around. Doesn't even have his first mythic yet. Gets bounced back into the house. Well, Leo recommits, and maybe, just maybe, AOE randoms are gonna turn around. Shim is escaping, gets taken down by Tuesday, though, and not even kill gets answered back. Never mind. Leave the sniper and Pocus ends up finding 3-man knockup. This could be it. Raheen goes down to the auto, and Short Hop is going to be able to pick up another kill. I take back everything I said, randoms. Please keep doing what you're doing.
Beautiful beautifully turned around there. I was so concerned when we saw the reinitiation from Leo. We saw Chim in a very dangerous place, a little too far behind, but Leo turned it back around, and it meant that Zeus was kind of up in the air about where they wanted to send their aggression. And such good timing on Short Hop jumping into that fight. Like I said, I love the Xayah pick. I really like the utility that she offers in escapability and initiation. You can use that blade collar for either, and he has had such good focus on getting the pokes down because everyone has been navigating around those feathers really well, but you can't navigate around auto attacks.
No, you certainly cannot, and that's the one saving grace of the AoE randoms right now, is that despite the fact that they're facing down a 5-0 Urgot, they at the very least have an 80 carry that is going to be able to put out the consistent damage and be able to do so from far ahead as well. 4 kills on a Xayah is no joke right now, and with the Kraken Slayer already picked up, there aren't a whole lot of champions there that are going to be able to be standing up to sustained auto attacks.
Just that, honestly, in the overall too, just looking at everything across the board, AoE randoms has had so much more success. You're not looking at 4 towers on the side of Zeus and 0 for AoE. It's equal, and they're making these proactive plays again.
That was really, really smart. I really liked that patience on the Swirl Seed, the instant sleep. It is the 3-man squad of Short Hop, Pocus, and Josie that make another pick happen, and just around that second Rift Herald as well. Could this be the second Rift Herald of the series for AoE randoms?
That would be absolutely spectacular. They're positioning themselves to do so. Look at the aggressive vision that AoE has on that side of the jungle that they've continuously been invading. And then also recognizing, all right, let's set up some defensive vision because clearly the pressure from Zeus is going to take place in response on the bottom side there. Now trying to clear some of that vision out, but I'm loving what I'm seeing from AoE randoms. This is exactly what we needed from them. These proactive plays. If you want to bring damage into this game, you got to do something with it.
This is pretty proactive too. Going for a pick on the Alistar is no joke as the 3-man knockup does land. The disengage comes in, but the Fear Beyond Death snipe manages to still pick up the kill for Zeus Gaming. That is proactivity executed to a T, Jolly.
Sure is. An AoE still trying to make what they can out of it. Losing Pocus is not the end of the world for sure. They still have some really solid vision up and the opportunity to utilize Kelly being picked up there by Josie. So I'm just liking the responding pressure that I'm seeing. It is not absolutely in the hands of Zeus as we saw in game number 1 and definitely game number 2. We're looking at close to 20 minutes and barely less than a 4K gold lead in favor here for Zeus. So I am honestly feeling like the analyst desk probably shouldn't have been so upset with their 3-1 predictions.
Yeah, this is actually looking like it could come true, and for the first time this series, we also have a soul on the table that is not Cloud. That means that AoE randoms get rewarded for focusing this down as an Infernal Drake has spawned, and Griffin can't find his way into the pit. The Drake will end up falling, as now a teleport in here, and a sleep from Josie takes 3 members down, Raheen having to flash away to stay alive, but no kills have gone over just yet. Lorim looks for that snipe. As on the side, Jim ends up picking up a kill. Josie could go down as well. Burns that Zanya to stay alive for a little longer. It's a 4v4 with Tuesday slowly but surely hamming in the members of AoE. Has that shockwave, look for it as he puts the ball over the wall. Shim gets flipped back in with the disdain, and then as one by one, the members of AoE randoms funnel in to save their dying members. They are cut down. Tuesday and his Griffin get to walk forward, picking up a double kill, nearly picking up the ace as the stun comes in, and Alorum is the one to land the last hit.
A continued fight decided by Zeus, and they found an advantage. I gotta say, I respect the hell out of, I think it was Pocus, who decided to step back up and take the blast cone. Such a clever strategy, recognizing I know Tuesday is going up and around this blue buff side. I know there's a blast cone available for them to initiate on my backline, so I'm gonna sacrifice myself to take that blast cone. Yeah, it'll put me back into the fight, but it gave a fighting chance to the rest of AoE randoms. It didn't turn out working in their favor, but you gotta respect that move and that recognition as well as the team play that we're seeing from Pocus.
Of course, I really like that actually. That it's something that I didn't get to notice in the heat of the... But it's those small differences that do, like you say, give a fighting chance to AOE randoms, and had they won the fight, we would be singing his praises all up and down the yin yang. As Zeus Gaming set up for this Baron, though, the next objective, things are going to get a little bit more complicated. Good hook lands from Rhino, and this time it is on to the one thing that could carry AOE randoms, as that short hop wiped off the rift.
Not a gray screen that you want to see here for AOE. And in the meantime, a teleport's coming through for your Beyond Death. Get over here, says Alarim, and Baron as well.
Yeah, you just teleported Leo down to the bot lane, so surely that Baron is going over, and ooh, even Leo might die. Flash forward from secures the double kill of all things, with now the big purple worm falling. You are in a world of hurt as AOE random.
This is a 9-0-4 Urgot. You cannot underestimate this player. I don't care how low he looks like he is. He's got enough crowd control, enough shielding, and enough damage to take you down. And he refuses to go down himself. I know it's a juicy bounty, AOE. I know 700 gold looks really, really good in your pockets right now, being almost 10k behind. But you gotta respect the heck out of this Urgot, who has not yet died, is performing on a perfect game right now.
Yeah, you've got to find some sort of way to address Alorum, and honestly, I just don't see it. It's got to be Josie with the sleep. It's got to be the damage from Short Hop, but all these things lining up mean that so much goes unaddressed. Tuesday, namely, with these shockwaves has been so clutch, and if you're busy trying to nail down a tank, what on earth is he going to do to you?
That's a tough spot to be in. Plus the crowd control on top of it in general. The whole team offers a very solid amount. Tuesday's shockwaves have been so on point. Now they're kind of looking for an initiation here. This is a potentially good opportunity if they can find a split onto Zeus.
After trying for that initiate, though, Pocus is the one that ends up eating the hook and burning the Unbreakable Will. Now, after that cooldown has gone down, after the Shockwave has expired, it's Raheem that commits to try and finish him off. Finds Josie and is going to get slept down in this bush, but Josie cannot stick around to pick up that kill. And it's going to be an easy single member getting grabbed by Zeus Gaming, as now they're pushing for even more turrets. We haven't even talked about Alorm because he's not here. He's pushing and ending the game in the bot side.
Those are Baron empowered minions. That is an inhibitor down, and still with Pocus being 10 for another little while, it's going to be Griffin engaging again.
He's just gone. Josie gets slowed as well, barely makes it back to the fountain in time, but fighting the fountain is not going to be the key. Wei gets to frontline, and a huge shockwave finds 2 of the damage members from AoE randoms. Pocus gets a knock-up, but it doesn't matter because the damage is just too much. The tankiness is just too much, and Zeus Gaming, I tell you, Jolly, they are just too much for AoE randoms today. They're going to take Game 3, they're going to take the series, and off of this game alone, it is going to be Zeus Gaming that we see in the finals.
A beautiful sweep of a 5-game series, 24 minutes. Less than 24 and a half to round that one out. A decisive victory here for Zeus, going in with such confidence. And unfortunately for fans of AoE randoms and those hoping to see them move on to the finals, that won't be the case. They really put up a tough fight today. But man, when you got a Alorum 10-0-6, there's not much you can do as a team.
No, it did not seem like something that could be addressed within reason. I think we talked about it, especially when we were referencing people like Tuesday, who clearly were a big problem. Raheen, who at the very end there was part of the squad that pulled the proactive play, clearly had a lot of damage on this Kaisa as well. You had so many threats, and Lorem was just the biggest one. You had no threats, however, on the side of AoE randoms, and that's what really spelled their doom at the end. The only thing that they could rely on was their AD carry, and AD carries in the meta don't exactly have fun when top laners are fed.
Absolutely not. Not when there's that much crowd control on the opposing side of the team. The front line just unfortunately was not there for AoE randoms. I kind of expressed that concern towards the beginning, but still, they blew us away with how well they were trying to make these proactive plays, trying to take away that advantage from Zeus. It just wasn't possible with the oppressive play style that we were seeing from them. I mean, either way, as unfortunate as it is to see AoE randoms drop here, I do get to say that my dog is right again and has a 100%, has a 100% prediction rate.
That's the win that we get coming out of today, and I'm happy we at least have some of that. The other thing that we have that'll cheer me up is a little bit of an analyst desk to toss to, so I'm going to take this and throw it right back over to them.
Sorry, guys. Welcome back to the AOE Esports Analyst Desk. We are gathered here today to mourn the loss of AOE randoms. Gentlemen, I'd like to start on a bit of a high note. Tuesday, a god still, even after 3 games?
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, we did prove that gods do bleed. At least he died 3 times, but he killed them 8 times. So I guess that's just how it goes. I actually said to DJ as the game was getting started, I was like, "There's no way that Leo can lose the Jason to Oriana matchup, right?" Well, it happened, and not because Leo is bad. It's just that Tuesday is so good. He took control of that lane off of one gank from his support, forcing Leo to back on a freeze, and then just grew his lead and generated so much pressure on a good team fighting pick. It was incredible.
Yeah, it just goes to what we've been talking about kind of all series here for Zeus versus AoE randoms. It has been an incredible run for the randoms, and for a team that calls themselves randoms, they have certainly put themselves on the map here in the first tier 2 of the Proving Ground split, but this was just a bridge too far at the start of the season. Zoos are seasoned. They have been tested time and time again. They have shown their quality time and time again. And Tuesday and Alorum, Griffin as well, they are just not meant to be messed with here on the Rift. What a performance from them, and just a little bit too much for anything the randoms could throw at them today.
Big disappointment for AoE, but I think that overall, looking at the randoms performance during this split, I think that they have a lot to be proud of. There's been so much growth coming out of this set of players. Who would you give MVP to on the losing side? Let's talk about that. For AoE randoms, who do you think outperformed your expectations, if at all? Let's start with Hawk.
Well, oh, it's interesting. Looking across the whole season, I'd have to give it to Short Hop, even though I think there was already a lot of expectations, especially as the season went on, or this tournament, I should say. Like this guy proved that he was really good time and time again, but I just think that can't be understated. Having a reliable AD carry makes teams better, just always, because even when things go awry on your top side of the map, even if your jungler is not able to create advantages with your support around mid or wherever, even if you're not able to get objectives, having that win condition always comes from the AD carry position, trying to have that insurance policy. And this guy, even in this series, although he didn't pop off in any of the games, his team just fell too far behind. I mean, in this game number 3, we just saw it. The bot lane smashed. Short Hop played it pretty well, and so it just goes to show that I think for him, his support and Pockets as well, they really had a good tournament. And the entirety of AoE randoms, I think, although this was definitely a tough series for them, a tough one to swallow, and they weren't able to break into that final. They weren't able to take him off Zeus. They won 2 sweeps in their group. They took down the main AoE roster just last week. They had a great tournament. I think a lot of it came off the back of their brilliant AD carry.
All right, DJ, what do you think?
As cliche as it is, I think Hawk's got the right focus here. I think in particular, Short Hop, your duo is always going to be together in the credit that you get and the criticism that you get as well. I do think Short Hop and Pocus, and Short Hop in particular, have really separated themselves here in this tournament. It is very early in the season, so plenty of time for everyone to kind of rise to that level and get going here. But I think the start of the season from Short Hop has been incredible. Think he's put his name up there with all the other AD carries that are in Proving Ground split, and the AD carries that have come before him. We've seen quite a bit of success from AD carries here in Proving Grounds. We have one, in Academy now from Wildcard and Team Luke. We have one in the LCS from EGP last split. In Danny, there are a lot of great AD carries here. Not even naming, of course, Gorica and the others. So I think Short Hop looking to make a name for himself in that pool of AD carry talent that is just streaming up here from the amateur scene into the higher echelons of the League of Legends community.
I think that that is the ultimate lesson for AOE to take away from this, is that they are giving their players the visibility that they need to be able to make it to the pro scene. I think more importantly than that is that we are in an age where we have no more heroes left in Pro League of Legends. There's very few people who, haven't seen their way around the Rift many times. So we're looking for a fresh new pack of people to, to be fans of. And I'm really excited to see what the future holds there. Any final words, gentlemen, for AOE, for Zoos? Anything?
I just think it's really impressive that we came in sort of prepared. We were talking about how both teams have paths to win this, and Zeus managed to come out and just play so incredibly well. I said that AoE randoms would be able to take a game because playing 3 near perfect games of League of Legends in a row is impossible. It's so incredibly difficult to not make mistakes and to outplay your opponent for such a long period of time in a row. And Zeus managed to do it extremely well and very deserving of this win. And then to say something to AoE randoms, it's that as I already touched on, and DJ already touched on, and Kari already touched on, they had an incredible tournament, and this is just started proving grounds. They're still going to get to prove themselves in the 3rd place match. Coming up, they're going to get some of those championship points for themselves regardless, and they are still on this shonen anime arc despite not being able to win today. And even though Karasuno Setter didn't have quite his his anime appearance yet, it could still come for randoms. It's still early in the season, and that this is what's made Proving Grounds so exciting, in my opinion, to see an organization like AOE that I've been a part of for a while now, and one of the earliest people here to see come into Proving Grounds and perform. It's been incredible. So props to Zeus for a big win, and props to AOE for being a part of it.
Yeah, for me, for AoE randoms, I would say don't be disheartened. This was, by all metrics here, a successful tournament for them. Again, they come in relatively unknown, completely underestimated by multiple people in the community, myself included. Of course, there was one prediction I had for Supernova where I was very, very wrong and was rightly punished on Twitter for it. The sinner here in the middle of the desk, of course, and they have really shown up here in this first tournament. They've earned those championship points. They've shown they have a clear style. They have some clear star potential as well. They have good drafting behind their coach Incon as well. A little bit of work to do against some of the big boys like Zeus, potentially the Wildcard Reds, the Academy teams that will, of course, come later on in the circuit. But you could not really ask for a better start for this team. So keep your heads up, continue to improve, and there could be a place for you in PG later down the line. For Zeus Gaming, congratulations. Another very, very clean win here today. Looking incredibly strong going into the final tomorrow against either Resolve or Wildcard Red. Although, based on the 2-0 lead and the game score at the moment here over on the Academy stream, looking like Wildcard Red. And congratulations to them, of course, because in that final, they'll have the extra buff because gotta love it. It'll be Tuesday.
Yep, the eclipse will be happening on Tuesday. We will see Zoos potentially rise again. Not the end of the line for AoE randoms, and especially this roster in particular. Don't be disheartened, AoE esports fans. I think that we've got something really beautiful starting here. On behalf of AoE esports, DJ, Hawk, Dia, and Jolly, and myself, Kari, thank you so much for tuning in. It's a disappointment, but I think that we're going to see them rise again. Have a good night.